Welcome back to the channel. This is Trendy Storm and you're watching second part of What If Kid Naruto acquired Phoenix Force after sacrificing Kurama. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to this channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Naruto replied, "Yes, the laws of Konoha says any land that is assigned to a clan that was a founder of Konoha owns that land and can never be sold, given, or taken by the council, citizens, or Hokage. Even if someone puts homes or buildings on those lands, they own them also. My family, the family of the first, wanted the village to grow, so while other clans held their lands, mine allowed homesteaders to set up on our land to build the village. The only clan besides mine that is affected by this is the Hyuga and Uchiha. They own basically a triangle from where their two lands meet and end and go to the academy where they run into mine. The other clans have kept exactly what they were given, no more and no less." "What do you plan to do about that, Naruto?" asked the third. Naruto replied, "Absolutely nothing unless the village hurts my family or friends." Taking a deep breath, the third said, "Thank you for not getting revenge." Anko retorted, "What?" As Naruto laughed, Naruto continued, "In my last life I did do something just for the hell of it. I placed a genjutsu on the Hokage mountain and had the Hokages lip sync to some songs while I danced through the street in only my boxers and a pimp hat and cane too. I am too sexy. In addition, I beat Kakashi during our genin test to the song Kung Fu Fighting. The council then attempted to kill me, so I essentially reprimanded everyone as only I could, even forcing Danzo, that damn traitor, to urinate. I never enjoyed myself so much. Oh well." The third person laughed and remarked, "I wish I could have seen that. And what do you mean, Danzo a traitor?" Anko and Kurenai blushed slightly as everyone imagined that. With a sigh, Naruto stated, "He gives Orochimaru details about specific ninja teammates, skill levels, and mission status. I am aware that he does it to the guys in Rookie 9 teams. I'm not sure before that. I would never have believed it if I hadn't caught his son Sai sharing the information. In any case, you should be aware that since I am currently the head of my family's clan and hold at least 4 council seats, the council is no longer able to kill, remove, or harm me." As Kurenai put it, "What do you mean? All Kages and their descendants are all allotted 1 seat, so I have 3 from the first, second, and 4th Kages," Naruto stated. "As the grandson of Jiraiya, the last member of his clan to hold a permanent seat on the council, I also hold 1 seat as a founding clan member. Now that I know Tsunade will be Hokage, her seat will be open, and Jiraiya will have his until he passes away, so the other 4 are mine, and whoever my wives are, I must have more than 1 because of my bloodline and clan. My plans changed when Anko found me today, but I still have 3 people I hope to marry someday. Since you now know the truth, I will understand if you or Sarahime do not want me, but I do ask that I write to you while I'm away so that I can at least gain your friendship. I'll tell you, never once have I been kissed by a woman. Don't think I'm just trying to hook up with you for that. I'm saving myself for a real marriage. Additionally, Tsunade taught me how to use the massage points I had studied in courtisan classes to manipulate the pressure point I struck." "What the hell were you taking a kunoichi only class?" Kurinia asked, blinking. Before reverting to his hanged male form, Naruto smirked and said, "Sexy no jutsu." He then transformed into a stunning woman with blonde hair wearing a dress and said, in a smooth female voice, "I have busted a few slave and prostitution rings before." Anko remarked, "How exactly could you do that if it's just a henge?" As Kurenai blinked. "Do any of you know why you can't dispel my henges?" smirked Naruto. According to Kurenai, "I have actually wondered that. It's because of Kyuubi's influence on my body," Naruto stated. "Even though he is no longer with me, I still possess his power, so when I use the advanced henge, I truly transform into what you see. In fact, my female version is entirely female hormones and all god, I detested time." After everyone blinked repeatedly, the third person had to inquire, "Does that mean you could become pregnant?" Tsunade believed so. "When I offered to accompany Ino to bust a prostitution ring, Naruto said she forced me to attend the classes and even gave me advice on birth control and safety. I now respect women more as a result of it." "Gaki," Anko said, "in any case, why would you want to be a woman?" "My first version was nude so I could knock out perverts," Naruto stated. "Actually, that method was what initially turned me into a genin after Mizuki tricked me into stealing the Forbidden Skull. I used it to knock out the Hokage and quickly learned Kage Bunshin. Simple Bunshins still give me trouble because my reserves are so large. It took me 2 months after I became a genin to learn how to control my chakras because no one ever taught me how to do so." The third person asked, "How much of the scroll do you know?" Naruto replied, "If you're worried about the sealing that dad did, I know it, but as I am a seal master also I have made my own seals that make it look like a simple exploding note." Naruto remarked, "I can perform 21 of the 23 techniques on it, and I know 22 of them, as the third went pale since the bloodline sealer kills anyone after the age of 1. I never learned it. I would never be tempted to use it on Sasuke or Itachi because I never learned it. The sealing Dad did was the one I learned but never attempted, so will you give me an opportunity to at least write to you both? I will give you a chance for my friendship, but anything beyond that I won't promise anything, Kurenai said quietly as she sat. When you got my locket, you got my friendship, Gaki, Anko remarked. However, I do have a question. Is Itachi connected to the tragedy you mentioned earlier? Naruto flinched as everyone watched, and he responded, yes. What is going to happen? Asked the third with a sigh. Naruto said, don't try to stop it. Itachi is going to murder his best friend. He exterminates the Uchiha clan 2 days later, leaving only himself alive. Sasuke, his younger brother. The third person asked, why would he do that? Do any of you know what the Mangekyo Sharingan is? Naruto asked, closing his eyes. Kurenai and Anko shook their heads no, but the third sighed and said, I see. I only know 2 people who have gotten it, and there are only 2 ways to get it, Naruto stated, each in a unique manner. What the third person said was, I thought there was only one way. Naruto stated, Kakashi finds another way, but I never learned how. According to the third, I should find a way to stop him. You can't, said Naruto, to save the rest of the village, it must occur. After giving Naruto a quick glance, the third asked, what do you mean? According to Naruto, Itachi will depart from the village and join a group of missing S-class nins who have already approached him to offer him a place in their organization. At the moment, no one in this village, I mean, no one, can oppose the 2 of them. How can you be sure, Naruto? Asked the third. Naruto replied, how can you hope to stop the man that killed the first Hokage and also Uchiha Madara, the first Uchiha? Everyone paused to gaze at Naruto while they ate the salad that was on the table. How can either of those 2 men still be alive? Asked the third. Kakuzu possesses a bloodline ability that allows him to live as long as he has a living heart, Naruto sighed. He has 5 of them. If one dies, he can kill someone else, get their chakra affinity, and replace his heart. Shikamaru later killed one heart by deceiving Kakuzu's partner. Kakashi used a Chidori to kill one heart, and I used a Rasashurikan Jutsu, a Rasengan with wind manipulation added, to kill 3 hearts. I can't use it right now because it requires too much of me. Uchiha Madara is a completely different story. The Uchiha were once Hyugas, as you are all aware. Everyone agreed and Naruto continued. He was a branch house member that wanted to be free of them, so he ran, and as luck would unfortunately have it, he was the cause of my life being hell. Then Enko asked, what do you mean? When he ran, he found Kyuubi's den. Naruto stated he made Kyuubi an offer, and Kyuubi changed his lineage to give him the Sharingan, which released him from the Hyuga family. However, he was also avaricious because he wanted to discredit the Hyugas. You know what the matter was. Naruto stated, in exchange for the bloodline and the Mangekyo Sharingan. When no one responded, he would pay Kyuubi 100 of his descendants in order to subdue Hyugas. However, Kyuubi cursed Madara and turned him into a half-demon because he knew that mortals did not live long lives and that he would pass away before the agreement was finalized. He would live for 1,000 years to witness his clan's debt repayment. Additionally, he was given that much time in case his clan perished and he needed to start over. Thus, Kyuubi launched an attack. He came to get his money. Madara, however, has gone insane and is seeking even greater authority. He has figured out how to turn into a demon with 10 tails. The very first he will be able to achieve complete immortality if he can defeat the remaining 1 to 9 tail demons. He established the organization. Itachi will join in order to accomplish this. He cannot do it now that Kyuubi is dead, but he is unaware of this, which gives me the upper hand in stopping him. The third individual replied, so you are going to let Itachi go so you can stop him and this group later? Yes, Naruto replied. I've lived a lot of lives, as I mentioned. I have never lived past the age of 18 in my entire life. Either a never-ending civil war or another major shinobi conflict destroys the Leaf Village in order for Orochimaru to arrive during my Chunin exams after Sasuke. Itachi must murder his clan. I can eliminate 2 more members of this group in a month. If I can eliminate Orochimaru, Itachi is one of them. After that, I can eliminate the remaining 7 members until I reach Madara and vanquish him. Destroying every single cell in his body is the only way to end his life. Can you defeat him? Asked the third. Naruto stated, the last time events lead to us meeting, it came out a draw. I hope I can change just enough to beat him this time. I opened 6 celestial gates and dropped all my gravity and chakra weights and also 5 tails of Kyuubi's chakra for 2 minutes. For that 2 minutes it killed him, but because my body was so damaged from it I would have lived my life as a cripple. I stopped my healing and let my body die so I could start over. Can you tell us any more about what's going to happen? The third one asked, letting out a sigh. Naruto replied, No, I would like to, but they would change things too much. That's why I am leaving the village, so I won't change things here too much. Let the Uchiha massacre play out and act normal until I return to take my Genin test. Just make sure you put me on the Genin team with Sasuke and Sakura under Kakashi. The third replied, why should I listen to you or believe you for that matter? Naruto looked up and said, you told me this when I tried other stuff, so you would listen. A monkey will climb higher to avoid a snake. Even with a frog and a snail's help he may not climb fast enough. A fox can kill the snake, but only with the strength of a snail, the agility of a frog and the wisdom of a monkey. With all eyes on him, the third sighed and uttered the words, damn it, there is no way you could know that saying, even if it is change. Anko inquired as to what had changed when Naruto blinked. The third replied, instead of a fox it was a mongoose that could kill a snake. Only person who knows that saying is dead and has been for years. The first told it to me when I told him my plans for the Sanins, and he died a few hours later, so he could not have told anyone it or wrote it down. Very well, I will believe you on this, but I don't like it. When a butler brought a scroll over, Naruto nodded and said, I want you three to put a drop of blood on this scroll. Why? Inquired Anko. Naruto continued, it will give you access to this place after I leave. Anyone who tries to enter after the Genjutsu seals are on will be sent to the Hokage Mountain. I have scrolls of every jutsu I know with the exception of Rasengan and Hiraishin no Jutsu in my library. It's down the right hallway off the main living room. Can't miss it. There are a little over 11000 jutsu from all the elements as well as medical and genjutsu. I give you all permission to look at them and learn them, but don't try to read my journals. I put my personal thoughts on stuff in them, and if anyone but a blood relation tries to open them it will kill them. Also don't teach any of those just you to anyone until I come back. Kakashi will also be allowed access, but only you four. The third individual replied, that's more jutsu than the entire Leaf Village. How did you get so many? Naruto replied, you know how Kage Bunshins learn everything you do and vice versa. Well, I had Kage Bunshins break into several other villages' libraries and memorizes them, as well as spent time among missing nin in other lives to learn them. It makes me more adaptable and a better ninja. After the third nodded, several impersonators produced a plate containing white rice, a bottle of champagne, and a Parmesan chicken. After everyone had a glass of champagne and had finished their meal, Naruto remarked, I hope I answered some of your questions. Yes, Kurenai replied, but we have more. Naruto nodded and continued, then that will give us a chance to write each other. I will have a summon check with the Hokage once a month to pick up any scrolls and deliver them so he can know how we are doing, or if something important is about to happen or happens he needs to know about. Also, you all should know that only you three and Kakashi know who I really am, but he does not know I am from a different life or anything like that, so don't tell him. I don't want him to depend on me when I have to hold back. The third said, I'm getting too old for this, with a sigh as he sat down to drink his wine. Naruto grinned and replied, I am sorry Aegean for being so mysterious and all, but it has to be this way for now. I will be taking my real name by the end of the Chunin exams, so do what you think is wise about that old man. Anko replied, you said Orochimaru will be coming for Sasuke. Why? Naruto stated, I have said too much already, so please don't ask me that. I will say this, the only reason I could remove your curse seal, Anko, is because you do not want it. If someone does want it, then I can't remove it. Also, I should tell you he has spies in this village, some even I don't know. I do know who his main one is, but I can't do anything about him until later. Kurenai replied, what are you really after, Naruto? Why live all these lives and work so hard like you say you have? Naruto looked at her and each of his other guests and sighed as he dropped his hands, showing the real Naruto, who said in a voice that you could hear was older than time and loneliness that no one could comprehend, this Senseiheim. I want to be able to be me. Everyone already has ideas of me. Even you and Sarahime, when you imagined why I hid who I am. I want to be the real me, not somebody who has to hide himself from the world. Who can't show feelings to those he cares about or show how smart he is, afraid the village would kill him for it. I want to be able to relax around people who actually care for you. I want to be able to show the world the real me and have a family who will look on at me with pride and love. That's why I do this. If you will excuse me, but it's getting late. Enjoy your evening. And he got up and bowed to them, and the three butlers in the room walked behind each person, and they were consumed in flames, appearing back at their own homes, and the butlers went up in a puff of smoke. People didn't get much sleep that night because they were too busy thinking about everything they had seen, heard, and told. A week had passed since Kakashi's official return to Fire Country. He had already visited 3 towns and had not yet located the person he was seeking, but today was a different story. Kakashi found someone who might be as good as Jiraiya, but he hadn't found her. He recognized the old friend standing in front of him and knew she was never alone. His first words were, "Hello, Shizune." After turning around, Shizune exclaimed, "Kakashi, is that you?" "Yeah, it's me. How are you?" Kakashi said, nodding. According to Shizune, "Fine. Why?" Kakashi replied, I was looking for someone, but when I saw you I thought I would check up on an old friend. Who are you looking for? Shizune asked. Kakashi stated, I was looking for Jiraiya. I got a mission from someone I thought was dead and he wants me to deliver a scroll to him. According to Shizune, who's that? Kakashi replied, Sensei's son Naruto Kazama. I just found out recently that the third changed his name because of his father's enemies. Shizune exclaimed, Arashi's kid is alive, in shock. Kakashi raised his eyebrows and replied, I was hoping that maybe you or Tsunade might have seen Jiraiya since he is always following you both for his research. Shizune said, blushing with shame and rage, about 2 weeks ago near Ritzer City. I can't believe Sensei's sons have been in front of me the entire time and never knew it, Kakashi said, nodding. What name did the third give him? Kakashi asked Shizune. Naruto Uzumaki to bad. The village never saw him as the hero Sensei wanted. I got to go. Thanks for the info, Kakashi said, surveying his surroundings. Before leaping off in the direction of Ritzer City, Shizune strode back in the direction of her master's blind spot, where Kakashi's mask concealed a smirk. Despite not telling Kakashi that he was Tsunade's grandson, Naruto was aware of it thanks to a specific covert mission Arashi had his team complete to identify his parents. They broke into the hospital record office and compared blood types. He wanted to prove himself on his own, so he never told them jumping from tree to tree. Kakashi reflected, I hope this starts to repay you for not being there for you, godson. When Shizune entered the casino, she was astounded by what she saw. Tsunade won a lot of money and had a huge pile of it. Tsunade, she said as she approached, how did you win? Something bad is going to happen to me soon, Tsunade declared. I hope you're wrong. I just ran into Kakashi, Shizune remarked. Tsunade said, what's old one eye up to? After wagering all of her money and winning again. Shizune sobbed as she watched her master wager everything once more, saying, he just told me something that made me happy and upset at the same time. Tsunade triumphed once more, risked everything, and exclaimed, what's that? According to Shizune, you remember Naruto Uzumaki. Tsunade put everything on one hand after nodding and winning even more. Nearly $10 million were at stake. Shizune responded, Kakashi told me that's not his real name, it's Kazama and he's Arashi's son. Arrested. In addition to losing all of her money, Tsunade's chair broke and the table broke in the middle as she attempted to stop herself from falling. Launching the cash into the air, an old, gumless dealer landed directly between her breasts, and a glass of foul-smelling beer flew up and landed on her head. After Shizune expressed shock at the damage, the casino's owner approached and demanded that she cover all of the costs. I just knew something bad was going to happen, Tsunade said. Then she stood up, grabbed Shizune, and dragged her as quickly as she could. About 30 minutes into their run, Tsunade halted, turned to Shizune, and said, tell me everything that Kakashi said. Shizune began stating everything since she had never seen her master act in such a manner. At the end, Tsunade said, we're going to Konoha, while gazing out over the lake. Shizune responded, but Tsunade, you said you would never go back, why now? Ignoring Shizune's shocked expression, Tsunade said, I need to see my grandson, and started to head toward Konoha. Since he had guests over for dinner, Naruto had been quite busy this week. He had been completing his home seals when Jiraiya arrived. He prepared his trip supplies, trained, and stayed away from the three he told in order to get some fresh air. Naruto is seen today heading toward a specific store to have something repaired while torturing Kabuto. He neglected to seal something in a dimension pocket. The recollection of that made him smile. Black-haired and green-eyed, he entered the Wolfclaw weapon shop, went to the counter, and said, I was wondering if you could make something for me. Most likely stranger. The names are Dustin and I'm the owner. What can I do for you today? Said the man behind the counter. After removing a scroll, Naruto handed a tube of blood along with the scroll, saying, I need that sword made and this vial of blood put in it. Yeah, I can make it, but it will take at least a week and it would cost 2 million to do. I would have to cancel all other jobs to do it, Dustin said, whistling as he opened the scroll and examined it. Either I or someone for me will come by to get it. Then if it's not me, ask for the password and it's Phoenix, Naruto said after taking out a scroll and opening some cash. After Dustin gave a nod, Naruto walked out and explored the village. Soon after, he noticed some of the Rookie Nine's children playing, ran into an ally, and transformed into his true self. A woman with pink hair said, What are you doing here, demon? I heard you died, as he approached them and started to speak. Before long, a number of other adults approached him and began making hateful comments. One of them even threw a rock at him, cutting his head. It only took the sight of blood to send the now increasing mob of irate villagers into a shark-feeding frenzy. With more rocks and the odd stick, they began to attack. He was about to hit a kunai that someone threw at him when it was deflected and a red-eyed woman appeared, asking, What the hell do you think you're doing? The woman with the pink hair who had previously mentioned that she had a daughter named Hikaru said, "He was going to attack our children." "Actually, Mrs. Haruno, he was walking over to them and did not do anything when you broke the third's law," a voice from behind the crowd said. He was walking toward her, still holding a kunai, when he stumbled and struck his head on the ground after hearing another villager say, "Mind your own business, Snake Witch." A few people laughed at him for tripping over a tree root, so he turned to see what had caused it and cursed. The third person showed up and said, "Anko, Kurenai, thank you for stopping this before it got out of hand. Please take him and make sure he is okay. I saw everything, and Mrs. Haruno, you break my law one more time and I will enforce the penalty. Same for any of you. I have a BNU writing each of your names down right now." A child with a dog on his head asked, "Mom, what was that all about?" as the crowd went white. "People being idiots, Inazaka," said Inoichi, who had come over with Ino and witnessed everything. He was staring at Naruto when he noticed something he had never seen before. Show respect. He witnessed what Naruto did, unlike the rest of the crowd, and he now understood some of the things that had been troubling him. In order to prevent the man from attacking Anko, he noticed the tree branch that slightly emerged from the ground. He noticed that he wasn't the only one who had noticed that when he looked around. When two people looked around, three other people saw it: an Aburame, an Akamichi, and an Nara. Later, he would have to speak with them. Naruto is most likely the person who sent the two women flowers if he is using the first bloodline. He chuckled to himself as he glanced at them and remarked, "Already protecting the ones you care for." As she watched the two women guide Naruto to an ally to crosstown, Mrs. Haruno said, "Damn right, Inoichi, why won't the Hokage just kill him already?" "Mrs. Haruno, please don't say that. Aegean, how would you feel if it had been your daughter instead of him?" Inoichi said, squinting his eyes. "According to Mrs. Haruno, I would never give my child for that." "Then perhaps whoever did was a better person than you. Goodbye," Inoichi said, and he left with his daughter. Let's take a look for those who are curious about what transpired in the Ally Way. All of Naruto's wounds healed and a red glow enveloped him as Kurenai and Anko guided him into the Ally. He turned to both of them, hanged into his Arashi form with blonde hair, and said, "Thank you." Anko replied, "What were you trying to do back there, Gaki?" "I thought that I could introduce myself to those who would become the Rookie 9 so that when I came back I didn't have to try as hard to befriend them. I should have known better," Naruto sighed, leaning against the wall. "It's always like that for you," Kurenai said, glancing at him. "That was nice to something that happened," Naruto remarked. As Anko put it, "You okay now, Gaki?" "What the hell? How the hell did they both get here so quick? I knew he was coming, but her too. What the hell did you do, Kakashi?" Naruto asked, nodding before straightening up as if someone had kicked him and turning to face the east side of the village. Kurenai asked, "What are you talking about?" after both women gave him a look. Naruto stated, "I smell Gambunta and Katsuyu, which means both Tsunade and Jiraiya are arriving soon." After exchanging glances, the two women asked, "Are you sure?" However, they heard what sounded like an explosion and felt a tremendous rumbling in the ground before Naruto could respond. Naruto remarked, "I know those two anywhere fighting Manda so many times." He then leapt to the rooftop, Anko and Kurenai following closely behind. As they arrived, they noticed two people on each of the enormous slugs and a huge frog standing next to them. The one on the frog, however, was slouched over the shoulder of the other. Upon closer examination, it was evident that Kakashi was hogtied and appeared to be in a lot of pain. Naruto replied, "Told you if I had to guess. The old pervert read my note and found Tsunade on his way here. Don't know why Kakashi like that though. Oh shit." "What?" Anko asked. Naruto replied, "Last time I seen that look on her face, Tsunade removed a traitor's heart." "What's so bad about that?" Kurenai asked. Naruto was saying, "She used her pinky to knock it out his back." Naruto remarked, "My guess is somebody better protect the Hokage," as both women blanched. As Kurenai put it, "Why?" Naruto stated, "A week after the Kyuubi attack, Tsunade arrived because she wanted to see me, but the third told her straight to her face I was dead even though he knew I was alive." Tsunade leapt off the slug at that precise moment, and as she landed, a 40-foot crater formed in the center of the road. She then flew in the direction of the Hokage Tower. Kakashi was still over his shoulder when Jiraiya leapt off, and he too immediately headed for the tower. Naruto witnessed Shizune moving slowly and fearfully as the summons vanished just as the door was sent sailing. Naruto grabbed the hands of the two women next to him and flamed Shushin to stand next to Shizune. A cage bun Shin then grabbed Shizune, and the four of them flamed Shushin to the Hokage office just in time to see the hinges fly off. Naruto leaned against the wall after releasing his three women. Jiraiya then rushed through the window, and before anyone could react, Naruto slammed his hands into the ground and uttered the words, "Doden. Yomi Numa, Earth Release." Underworld Swamp. Everyone felt their energy draining, and everyone but the three women behind him was immobile. Dropping his henge, Naruto looked up and said, "Hello grandparents, calm down and we can go somewhere more private to talk." With everyone in the room staring at him, he at last relaxed and let go of the "just you." Tsunade gave him a look and asked, "How?" Naruto replied, "Come with me to my home and I will tell you what you need to know. You also Ero-sen, and by the way, what the hell did you do to Kakashi?" "I didn't," Jiraiya said, gesturing to Tsunade. "He irritated me. Let's go so we can talk," Tsunade said. The door to the Hokage office fixed itself after Naruto nodded and flashed through some hand seals before saying, "Secret art. Hotel room escape." With a glance in his direction, Jiraiya asked, "How do you know my jutsu?" Naruto let out a perfect Rasengan and said, "I don't know what you're talking about. Let's go to my place. I am sure Shizune is tired from riding Katsuyu. Sarahime and Senseiheim, you're both welcome to come. Sorry about the mess, old man. Tell Kakashi I will talk to him later, but don't tell him anything else." As Naruto created 5 cage bunshins, each of whom grabbed a person's flame shushin away, the third sighed and muttered something about being too old before simply nodding. "What? How did I get back here? Last thing I remember was telling Jiraiya how I told Shizune about Tsunade grandson being alive," Kakashi said, sitting up when he realized a few minutes later that he was in the Hokage office. The third individual replied, "How did you know he was her grandson?" "Naruto just told me he sent you to find Jiraiya so they could find her." Kakashi laughed and said, "When I was still a genin, Arashi sensei has us break into the hospital record office and compare his blood to everyone on file there. I learned they both were his parents. Then if I would have known Naruto was sensei's son, I would have told them sooner, especially since he is my godson." The third individual replied, "You're lucky to be alive because Jiraiya said Tsunade was the one who did that to you." As Kakashi put it, "Where are they?" According to the third, Naruto took them to his new home. Kakashi made the comment, "Where does he live?" The third individual replied, "You will have to see for yourself. Give them today to talk and I am sure Naruto will come find you and take you there." With a sigh, Kakashi simply nodded. In the meantime, Naruto's pad. When the 6 of them reach Naruto's house, he nods in the living room while his cage bunshins change into butlers and head to the bar for drinks. After saying, "I will be back in a moment," Naruto enters a different room. Tsunade quickly spots something as she scans the room. In addition to a number of other images of things she is aware are fake, there are photos of her with Jiraiya and Shizune with a person who resembles Naruto. However, when she sees a picture of Naruto wearing her grandfather's necklace with Shizune and Jiraiya, her heart stops. It's still there when she gives it a quick pat. At that moment, everyone's drinks are brought back by the butlers. Jiraiya is quietly seated. He was surprised that he performed 3 jutsu in 3 minutes, but he is concerned that he should not have known about 2 of them. The butler hands him a drink, which he takes a sip of. He glances around the room. Tsunade appears to be seeing a ghost. Shizune appears frightened for some reason. Orochimaru's apprentice is here. Where the hell is the curse seal? After Anko massages her neck, Tsunade turns around and realizes it's gone too. Naruto returns to the room, saying, "I removed it." He hands one of the 3 scrolls he's carrying to Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune, saying, "This should answer most of the questions you will have." He then sits down and takes a sip of wine, shocking 3 of the 5 people present in addition to himself. Since the scroll is in her own handwriting, Tsunade breaks the blood seal, opens it, and almost drops it. Glancing up, she sees that Jiraiya and her assistant are also in disbelief. She started, "As you can already tell, I'm writing you this myself. Naruto, the boy here, is actually your grandson. Only after I told him did he find out. Despite his youthful appearance, his mental age is much older. Don't tell anyone that the Kyuubi is dead." Despite Naruto's impending death, the fucking fox sacrificed itself for the Shinigami so that he could start over at age 5. Asking could make things worse because he won't tell you what will happen. Because he genuinely wants to have his family, this scroll was written to save him from having to repeat everything over and over again. In case he changes his mind, I won't tell you, but he wants to marry 3 women. If Naruto gives you advice about Orochimaru, heed it with caution. Until Naruto murders him again, the man who killed our grandfather is still alive. When the time comes, he will clarify. Watch out for the Uchiha, too. Find out if he's prepared for his family name to be revealed. Support him if he is aware of every village law. Even the ones where the village itself is owned by our family. Unless you bring him along, cut back on your drinking and gambling, and never wager against the brat. He always prevails. In a few days, he learned the first stage of Rasengan. He won our grandfather's necklace by completing the second stage in 5 days and the final stage in 1 week. He is descended from his grandfather. I hope he doesn't end up like his grandfather in any of his lifetimes. His mother's identity is unknown to him, you know, but wait for her to say so before telling him she is also unaware that he is still alive. Even in that case, their relationship would not have been well regarded because the elderly man was unaware that they were married and that she was his mother. I don't know where she is, but she is alive. Enjoy yourself and watch out that our grandson doesn't become a pervert and reveal his mother's identity. Enjoy yourself. You learned Rasengan in less than a month. Damn, Gaki must be my superior genes, Jiraiya remarked as she read his. Tsunade scowled and remarked, Jiraiya, we should talk later. Naruto continued to drink his wine and said, I already know how you both got together. I do have one thing to say. Bakken, your brother, was killed by the Hibite for his experiments. That is where he got the DNA of the first to put in Yamato. Jiraiya glanced at Kurenai and Anko. You even think about trying to peek on Sarahime, Sensiheim or Tamariheim, and I will make sure the rest of your ninja career is as a kunoichi. Also, I have already sent a proposal to buy your publisher, pervert. There's no way you have enough money to do that, Gaki, Jiraiya said, looking pale. Naruto laughed and replied, the last time I checked I had close to $900 billion in gold Erosanin, and I have added to it since then, and that's not counting Dad's estate either. With her scroll dropped, Tsunade remarked, you could pay off all my debts. Naruto glanced at her and said, you think I am stupid? You may be known as the legendary sucker, but I am not. I will help you with some but not all Bekwase. Then you want to learn not to gamble so much. Looking up from her scroll, Shizune uttered the words, Naruto, your mother's Rin. Shizune, what are you doing? Tsunade exclaimed, gasping. Shizune took a breath and said, helping my little brother out, or at least that's what the scroll says I think of him as, and since you both have known for 5 times that we have seen these scrolls, one made a promise to myself that on this time he would know if he did not. After glancing at Tsunade, Shizune, and Jiraiya, Naruto noticed the expression on his face that declared, I want answers. It's not our place to tell you, Tsunade sighed. Shizune responded, Tsunade, from what I read until he started going back in to start over, he never knew anything about who he was and who his family is. It says he only found out you were his grandmother by chance, and Jiraiya was a guilt trip on you. He found out who his father was because he was wounded and you had to give him a blood transfusion. Please tell him who his other family is so he can have that peace. She was weeping in her eyes. All right, I'll tell you. What do you know about your dad's genin team, Naruto? Tsunade sighed. Naruto explained, just that dad's teammate Obito, who has been reincarnated in Sword, and Kakashi were teamed up with a girl. Obito originally died but was saved by a member of Atsuki and gave Kakashi his Sharingan. Rin left because she was heartbroken over the fact that Obito died after professing his love, and she was a fangirl for Kakashi. Everything up to the reason why she left you are right on, Tsunade said, nodding. Huh, said Naruto. Tsunade continued, the real reason she left is she was pregnant, but not with you, and no, you don't have a brother or sister. She had an abortion, which was a good thing because I am sure you heard about how Rin was captured before Obito died, right? The ninja that captured her tortured her not only mentally but physically, and you can figure the rest out, Tsunade said, and Naruto nodded. As Tsunade went on, Naruto looked down and said, you heard how Kakashi passed out and had Obito's eye, right? Well, when your dad came, he was able to figure out what had happened and promised her not to tell, which he never did. I only know because I did the abortion when she left the village, and then your dad came back and brought her back to the village and they started falling in love. The pervert over here, even though he did not know Arashi was his son, was there as a witness. Along with Shizune and me, I ran into her, and she told me the same thing. And the third told me that you had died when the hospital collapsed. He was unaware that she was your mother. She was an Inuzaku, and she was exiled after returning from the abortion because her clan knew she was pregnant when she returned on the mission, and it was against their clan laws to have an abortion. Sadly, that was destroyed during the Kyuubi attack, and the pervert over here, who did not know Arashi was his son, was there as a witness, just like Shizune and I. She told me the same thing, and the third told me that you had died when the hospital collapsed. He did not know she was your mother. They had only been married for a year when you were born, and he kept it a secret from everyone for obvious reasons. Kakashi knew Arashi was going to have a child, but he did not know who the mother was. As Naruto put it, Yuki's dad, everyone was staring at him and he sighed. I save a few countries who are under triumphs in my genin career. I saved Snow Country and restore Princess Yukie to power. I still can't believe she did an Icha Icha Paradise movie. Now, 3 things occur when he says that, knowing all about his books, every woman in the room turned to Jiraiya too. The pervert disregarded the increasing intent to kill 3, making a perverted laugh. He wrote down the words, make ICHA movies, aloud. After Naruto blinked, 4 women started beating Jiraiya mercilessly. Following their conclusion, Tsunade replied, Now where was I? Oh yes, after the third told us that you had died, your mom still had Sonin travel papers and left the village. I've seen her a few times but not in over a year. I did not want to tell you until I talked it over with her because of the painful memories. After closing his eyes and letting out a sigh, Naruto remarked, I can relate. Is Rin any relation to Hana? Asked Kurenai after giving it some thought. Tsunade remarked, is she the clan head's daughter? Tsunade remarked, then Hana is Rin's niece, so Naruto's cousin, after Kurenai nodded. Naruto sighed and said, that means I am related to Kiba. Damn it, no wonder my senses are better than the Inazakas. I always thought it was because of Kyuubi. Now I find out the damn furball just increased what I already had. I bet the fox is laughing that one over in the grave. So now that we know the truth, what do you plan to do? Naruto? Tsunade sighed. According to Naruto, I plan on leaving the village for a few years and train and spend time getting to know my family better. Return in about 6 years so I can graduate with my age group, get everything ready, kill Orochimaru, Uchiha Itachi, Uchiha Madara, Kakuzu, restore my clan, make my family proud and settle down and have a family that about wraps it up. Is anyone else disturbed by this? Asked Shizune. With everyone nodding, Naruto uttered the words, what? You're too damn mature. Gaki, put on your older henge so it's not so disturbing, Anko said, slapping her head. You're no fun. Owl. Well, new family tradition, since the old hag here uses a genjutsu I might as well. Naruto moaned. A slam followed. The rest of Naruto's body followed his head as it descended to the forest below. Where the hell is this house at? Tsunade asked, peering down the hole. Anko stated, Gaki built it in the forest of death. Drops of sweat. After talking with Arashi, Naruto returns to the house with blonde hair and says, don't worry about the hole, the house repairs itself every 10 minutes. You're a seal master, aren't you? A kid? Jiraiya asked. Naruto stated, my own personal seals makes the Fuinjutsu Shiki Fujin, demonic soul seal, look like a flash tag. Whistling softly, Jiraiya stated, we need to compare notes. Naruto was saying, visit my library, all my jutsu and seals are in there, including medical that both Bakken and Shizune-chan might like to look at. Tsunade questioned, why do you call me Aunt? Would you prefer that I call you Obaken? Asked Naruto. Aunt will be fine, I guess. I don't like being called old, Tsunade said with a smug air. Don't worry, Naruto chuckled, adding, your genjutsu will have gray hairs by the time I'm done. Jiraiya chuckled and Naruto responded, laugh it up, Erosan, and I am sure Bakken would love to know about the time you put an aphrodisiac in her sake. Only thing that kept you from getting married and killed that night was the fact that the Hokage summoned you for getting him busted peeping at the hot springs. Three faces were in shock, and Jiraiya remarked, you hate me, don't you? Naruto replied, nope, just keeping my promise to Gambunda to get the hell beat out of you for using his kids in your researching adventures. A powerful fist sent Jiraiya through the wall and across the forest of death, where she landed in the hot springs. Unfortunately for him, he ended up in the Hyuga's hot springs, which were only being used by 30 or fewer women. The phrase, gentle hands, took on a new meaning for him. After checking the wall clock, Naruto stood up, approached Anko and Kurenai, and said, well, make yourself at home, I will be back shortly. He then grabbed both of their hands and pushed the flamed Shushin away. Thank you both Aegean for today. I hope to see you both Aegean before I leave, he said as he emerged atop the Hokage monument. Why did you bring us here, Gaki? Asked Anko, pointing to the mountain above the village. Naruto grinned and remarked, this is the best spot in the village to see the sunset. I wanted to do something special for both of you. The display left both women speechless, and they were unaware of it until they felt a pressure point on their necks, which sent them into a state of ecstasy. Naruto also didn't release it since they were still closed from pleasure. He held it until he heard them both groan. Then he let go and kissed them both before they could react. They were both being turned on by his constant kissing. I did not want one to feel left out by that. I love you both, good night, they said, opening their eyes to see two Narutos. When the kiss ended, they then flamed Shushin away so neither woman could tell which one was real. The two Sanins arrived in the village 10 days ago and then mysteriously vanished. They had returned today, but this time they were at the front gate. It's funny that they brought the Kyuubi brat along. There were only 4 individuals at the gate who refused to leave. Anko, Kurenai, Kakashi, and the third Hokage were among them in those 10 days. A lot has transpired. Naruto concluded that it might not be a good idea to grant Kakashi access to his library at this time because he would then be aware of his potential strength. He made the decision that, aside from his family, only Anko and Kurenai would be read aloud for the time being. Since Naruto was still alive, the third was defending 2 black eyes who were lying about his death. Even though Naruto had signed the Toad contract, he still kissed Kurenai and Anko when Tsunade prepared his food, They had her add a temporary chakra poison so he couldn't get away. Rewind. Anko and Kurenai entered while Naruto was seated on his couch. He hadn't seen them or kissed them in 2 days, but it wasn't much. He had not seen a glimmer in Anko's eyes since he and the other Anko had tormented Kabuto, but he saw it as they approached him. A single thought crossed his mind. He tried to leave but was unable to do so because his chakra was malfunctioning. "I'm screwed." Declaring that diplomacy might be his only option, he said, "Look, I'm sorry. I wanted to kiss you both and I figured that would be my last chance for a long time." He said he wanted to kiss us. He never asked if we wanted it, Kurenai said, turning to face Anko. "What do you take us for? The kind that kiss on the first date?" Anko said, nodding. Naruto replied, "Of course not. I know I should have waited, but..." Anko asked, "What makes you think if you waited it would have been alright?" After he looked up after being interrupted by a kunai landing in front of his crotch. Naruto felt frightened. He said, "You're right. I took advantage of you both and I shouldn't have," because he didn't want to discover whether his healing ability had the same flaw as Kabuto's. "Yes, and now you are going to pay," Kurenai replied. Anko took out another kunai and approached, severing one side of his shirt. Kurenai treated the other in the same way. Naruto noticed a chakra-draining seal had been placed on his chair and attempted to stand but was out of energy. He replied, "Is there any way I can make it up to you both?" Anko said, "I don't know what you got to offer," after glancing at Kurenai. According to Naruto, "Dinner, my treat," as she began to cut the side of his pant leg, Kurenai remarked, "No, not even a good start." Naruto replied, "Dinner anywhere you want and a free week at the hot spring, my treat." As she sliced his other pant leg, Anko remarked, "No, it's tempting, but that still makes us feel cheap and used." As his fear increased, Naruto uttered, "The dinner, hot spring, and a massage." As she sliced his pant leg all the way to his crotch, Kurenai blinked and remarked, "That is getting a little better, but you could cheat us on the massage." Fearing that his family line was coming to an end today, Naruto closed his eyes and said, "Dinner anywhere every night for a week, hot spring for a week, a massage with oils and all the pleasure points I know once a day until I leave the village, and I will bring chocolates and flowers for each of you, and I will take you shopping and pay for it, I promise." Kurenai nodded in response to Anko's glance, and Naruto heard the fabric of his pants rip. Naruto descended to assess the extent of the damage, noticing that both of them had just severed the legs at the crotch, and they both said, "Deal." The end of the flashback. This week, Naruto's finances suffered greatly as he lavished Anko and Kurenai with attention. They forced him to take them to the priciest restaurants, where each meal cost $225, so it cost them $1,000 a day. The chocolates cost $100 a box every day. He paid $75 per day for massage oils. It cost $150 because it was the best and priciest hot spring in town. Each flower cost $50. The cost of shopping was $400 per day. 2 gorgeous women are being massaged in 2-piece bikinis. Priceless when you have a 6-year-old's body and a mind that has spent your entire life with perverts as senseis. It's an amazing life. As he approached, Anko asked, "Did you learn your lesson, Gaki?" "Yeah, number kissing on the first date," Naruto said. In response, Kurenai said, "Yes, even though it was not a date." While dodging a thrown kunai, Naruto grinned and remarked, "True, but I will wait to kiss you both on the second date when I get back." "So when are you going to show me your place, Naruto?" Kakashi asked as he approached. He said, "Maybe when I come back." With a nod, Kakashi asked, "So how did you get the Snake Mistress and Ice Queen to kiss you?" Kurenai replied, "We did not kiss him, Kakashi, and you better not tell anyone either." According to Anko, but he does have magic hands. Red in the face, Kurenai yelled, "Shut up, Anko." Unfortunately, Kakashi heard them and giggled in a perverted way. Naruto replied, "Kakashi, just so you know, even though you are my godfather does not make you immune to my wrath." Kakashi replied, "What can a little kid like you do to a Junin like me?" Naruto stated, "I bought Jiraiya's publishing company, I could close it." With a pale face, Kakashi uttered, "You hate me, right?" "No, Kakashi, if I did I would do far worse. I would start printing Guy's physical education book in Icha Paradise covers," Naruto said with a menacing grin. "That look on your face reminds me of my old teammate Rin. God, I would love to see her Aegean," Kakashi uttered, taking a step back in terror. Yeah, Kakashi, I don't want to hear about your past social life," Naruto said, dismissively waving his hand. "Man, I wish I could see her ass Aegean. I was an idiot back then. I could have had her when she was my fangirl before. If she came back I would take her home and make love to her all night long," Kakashi said, letting his perverted side take over with a sigh. Naruto recently discovered that Rin was his mother despite never having met her. He did not like the idea of perverts discussing her in such a way, so he used the greatest demon power available to him to do what any self-respecting, number 1, hyperactive knucklehead with 11,000 jutsu in his memory would do. He trailed behind Kakashi, who continued to daydream. He lowered himself and inserted his finger into a tiger seal, said, 10,000 years of death. He then began to manipulate the wind around his fingers and thrust them up Kakashi's ass, sending him flying across the village. He remarked, I hate perverts, and I don't like what he was thinking about, as everyone started to perspire. The third individual replied, Naruto, just because he says something to upset you does. Don't tell my grandson he should not defend his mother's honor, he might kill you, Tsunade said in a whisper, stopping him. Right, Naruto, good job and keep up the good work, have a safe trip. Bye, the third said, coughing and going pale, before he departed in a flurry of leaves. As she approached, Jiraiya remarked, we better get on the road. Goodbye my Himes, Naruto said, nodding, and then he had two clones appear in henge and kiss each other before turning and leaving the gates, followed by Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Shizune. I will miss you, Himes, and I left a going-away present for you after I walk out the gates, he said. Following their departure, Anko remarked, I wonder what he got for us. According to Kurenai, I don't know. As soon as the village began to fill with music, Anko turned to Kurenai and remarked, he didn't. As they gaze at the Hokage monument, they both notice that the heads of the Hokage are bouncing up and down before they begin to sing. The entire village is gone by the song's conclusion, and the Kakashi emerges clutching his ass next to the red-faced Anko and Kurenai, who both say, friend of yours. After taking a quick blow to the face, he sighed and uttered, I need to go to bed. Shizune remarked, you should decline that. After Naruto packed his Enpod in his bag a few miles from the village all the way back, I could hear it. I'm sorry, Naruto said, there is just one volume on it. Tsunade replied, I am sure they could hear it all the way back in Konoha. You have no idea, Naruto said, pay attention, why don't we visit Suna initially? According to Jiraiya, why's that, Naruto? I think you might be able to fix Arrowanin, Naruto said, referring to a boy who was having trouble with his seal. The single-tailed raccoon demon is held by a straightforward 3-star seal with a berserker seal over it. Tsunade asked, why do you want to do that? As everyone turned to stare at him. It never hurts to win over your potential future brother-in-law, Naruto remarked with a sly smile. Does it? Nissan, you know that you're crazy, Shizune remarked. As a fox would, Naruto said, what do you think? We can then travel to Traman City. I am aware that there are excellent casinos and hot springs there. Shizune remarked, you're evil, as Jiraiya and Tsunade rubbed their hands together, utterly wicked. Before transforming back into his 15-year-old body and declaring, thank God these henges actually are real, Naruto transformed into an elderly man holding a cane and said, in a frail and worn-out voice, you should listen to your elders and use whatever weakness an enemy has. I would detest having to walk every step in my true size. According to Jiraiya, it would be good training for your body, Gaki. Tell me, said Naruto, what would happen to my body if I were wearing 10 chakra weights and 10 gravity seals? Tsunade replied, your body would be crushed and you would die in minutes. Why? Oh, I went from 10x to 15x on both last week, Naruto remarked. I simply wanted to ensure that I wouldn't encounter any significant issues, that's all, he said, maintaining a straight face while ignoring the shocked expressions on the faces of his 3 traveling companions. After getting some composure, Tsunade turned to face him and remarked, that is so wrong, kid. Come on, said Naruto, I wish to travel there while I'm still young. After glancing at Tsunade, Jiraiya asked, why did we ever have kids? We, said a vein that appeared on her forehead, after you got me intoxicated, you gave me Arashi's asshole. Give me one justification for not killing you right where you are. I bought all your gambling markers you had, Jiraiya said, taking out a book and passing it to her before walking to catch up with Naruto. Sighing, Tsunade remarked, this is going to be a long trip. She wouldn't realize how accurate her statement was. Fast forward 6 years. The reason Kakashi was depressed was simple. The Hokage was forced to make him a Junin sensei by the Council of Konoha. He wanted to refuse, but they said he had to do it because he was the only other Sharingan user in the village. Kakashi sighed as he looked at his ABNU mask, which he had to put away today, probably never to wear again. After examining himself in the mirror, he proceeded to his dresser to finish up his ABNU paperwork and was ready to leave when he sensed someone had entered his home. He swiftly grabbed a kunai and crept into the living room, where he was met with a sight he could only imagine. A woman wearing a red dress and a brown coat, with brown hair and brown eyes. The thing that made him smile the most behind his mask was that he used to know this woman. It's been a long time, Kakashi, she said with a smile. What is this about you wanting to spend the entire night making love to me? Kakashi continued to smile and said, Oh Rin, I don't know who has been spreading such stories about me, but if you came here for that or want me to defend your honor, I would be glad to. Rin replied, Oh, the gentleman who told me that is someone who I think you would have a hard time beating. That's not true, Rin, Kakashi said, patting his chest. I'll correct him if you just identify him or show me him. Rin pointed to Kakashi's door and said, Oh my god, Kakashi, thatch him, in a fast, almost terrified voice. The figure, who was 6 feet tall, with blonde hair and blue eyes, was wearing a white coat with blue and red flames across the bottom and the sleeves, had a sword by his side, and had the appearance of someone with a lot of wisdom. Kakashi turned around, stopped in his tracks, and paled at what seemed to be the ghost of someone he had not seen in nearly 12 years. Rin approached Kakashi from behind and said, It's him, Kakashi. While remaining terrified, it was he who informed me that you said that it's my son, Naruto. The room was silent for a moment before the copycat ninja, who was rumored to have copied over 1,000 jutsu, fainted, and the man in front of him and Rin behind him both started laughing. Rin said, That was fun, son, as she turned to face Naruto. I appreciate you doing that for me. With a smile, Naruto said, Mom, is there anything you need? I have more important things to do. So when do I get to meet those 2 lovely ladies you told me about? Rin asked, nodding to Mari as dependable. They all are, but I'll introduce you later, Naruto stated. My genin test is coming up. Don't kill anyone, Rin said. Once, said Naruto merely because he was deserving. In any case, it was a sympathy kill. Rin said, You shoved the dude into Tsunade's chest and she crushed what was made him a man. In Naruto's words, he should not have called you that. I am proud to be a bitch, Rin declared. Go to school now, or Shushin won't be around for a month. With a sigh, Naruto said, Yes, Mom, I'll see you at home. He flammed Shushin away after she nodded. After listening to the entire training trip, the 3rd Hokage office sighed and said, So all you did was lose $1 billion that Naruto earned back somehow. Purchased 20 casinos, 2 publishing companies and 10 hot springs, 10 wineries, got married, met Nato's mother, and traveled to Suna on clan business. Jiraiya replied, Don't forget making 6 new Icha Icha books and bought a cruise line. The 3rd person asked, Did you do any training? Of course, Hokage-sama, Shizune uttered. The 3rd let out a sigh of relief before Tsunade added, I trained not to gamble so much. According to Jiraiya, I trained to only peek on willing women. Red in the face, Shizune remarked, I trained on the horizontal limbo. She was sweating, and everyone stared at her until she said, Just kidding. The 3rd person sighed and said, Thank God. I trained in how to table dance, Shizune added with a smile. All 3 of them fled after the 3rd yelled, Get out now. Tsunade remarked, The sad thing is that last one was true. Never give liqueur to Shizune. Today was the last day of this year's class, and Iruka was enjoying himself. He was about to call the last name on the list when a swirl of fire appeared next to him. A taller child with blonde hair, blue eyes, and a white coat stood next to him and said, Sorry, I'm late. On the path of life, I became disoriented. Iruka asked, Can I help you with something? As everyone started to perspire. Yes, the blonde replied. I was sent to take the last test by the Hokage, my family, and I just returned to the village. Nodding, Iruka said, Name please. The blonde gave the name, Naruto Uzumaki Kazama. What was that name, Aegean? Iruka asked, nodding before going pale as he began writing the name. Naruto uttered the words, Naruto Uzumaki Kazama. All right, Iruka said, shaking his head. I'll call you after the last person, so please take a seat. Uchiha Sasuke, kindly proceed to the front of the class and execute the Bunshin, replacement, and henge. After completing the 3 tests, Sasuke said, Top that loser, and made his way back to his seat. Taking a deep breath, Iruka said, Please do the same, Naruto. Everyone laughed when Naruto performed the replacement. Sasuke pissing said boy off. Then he hanged Mizuki while holding a sign that read, I need fiber. You fail, Iruka said. Look on his back, Naruto said. The sign was there when Iruka looked, but he took it down and said, Please do Bunshin. Iruka said, You pass. After Naruto performed a half seal and a Bunshin. This is your hiat. Iruka, who recognized Jiraiya of the Sanins, said, Jiraiya-sama, what do we owe the pleasure of your visit? As a frog leapt through the window carrying a man who appeared mentally disturbed on his back. Jiraiya stated, I just came to tell my grandson that his fiancée left a package at the Hokage Tower and my wife, his grandmother, took it home for him. Do you mind me asking who your wife and grandson are? Uruka asked, nodding. Jiraiya replied, well, my wife is my old teammate Tsunade, and as for my grandson, he's right behind you. When everyone in the class turned, Naruto exclaimed, what Tamariheim send me Gramps? If someone had been watching Mizuki, you could have seen him looking terrified. Sniff sniff, I believe he just shit himself. The two were laughing uncontrollably, having already planned to do this a month earlier. Just how is that boy your grandson? Inquired Mizuki. Easy, said Naruto. You didn't look beneath the surface for a ninja-populated village. How many people in Konoha have blue eyes and blonde hair? Only 3 families possess those characteristics. The Yamankos are number 1, the Kazama. Or perhaps I should say just my father Arashi Kazama, since he was adopted during the war. Was the other? You can guess who his parents are. One is at my house. And the other is right there. The other is my grandmother. Tsunade Uzumbrail. Sakura acted arrogant with her large IQ when she said, but if he was adopted, that means his grandparents lost their rights to claim him. Let's deflate it, shall we? Naruto stated, that rule is void when it deals with a clan that has a bloodline, which I have. Sasuke replied, what loser clan and bloodline do you come from? Naruto replied, you say something. Oh, I have my great-great-grandfather's bloodline, the first Hokage's Mokuton Abilis. Well, if that's all for today, or what? Yes, Uruka replied, that's all. Naruto turned to go, but he stopped and rolled to the side, avoiding a kunia, after nodding and saying, hey buddy, you really do need more fiber so you won't shit yourself. Aegean. It's good to see you as well, Sarahime, Naruto remarked. Anko enters through the window, approaches, removes the kunia she tossed, and says, welcome back, Gaki. Just as I always see it. A kunia flew through the window at the new guy, and the whole room is watching, terrified of what will happen. Naruto said, your place of mine. Anko replied, you have not been to your house yet, have you, Gaki? Naruto exclaimed, what the hell do you do to it, woman? Calm down. Anko said, I moved in because I like the locals. It's not as though you lack the room, but be on the lookout for old Red Eyes. She still harbors some resentment over your departure. She doesn't yet know you're here. A certain red-eyed woman was drinking wine when she abruptly spat it out all over the chainsmoker seated across from her. Naruto grinned, took out his NPOD, and said, she will now. The music then began to play throughout the entire village. The classroom door suddenly opens, revealing a stunning Kuranai who is panting from running. Hello, Senseiheim, Naruto said with a smile. I'm back. When your heart calls for you, pay attention to it. There is nothing else you can do but listen to your heart. I have no idea where you're heading or why, but before you bid him farewell, pay attention to your heart. She approaches him and gives him a face slap, but he accepts it. Then, shocking everyone, including Naruto and Anko, she pulls him into a passionate kiss. Well, what are you waiting on? Naruto asked Anko as they parted ways. After that, Anko gives him a passionate kiss, and Naruto draws the 2 women close before flaming Shushin back to his house. Upon returning to the classroom, Uruka hears scribbling and turns to see Jiraiya writing in a notebook. Uruka then says, okay, class dismissed. Sakura glances around the classroom, but no one is moving, not even the slothful Shikamaru, who is alert. Ino yells, what the hell was that? Well, if they said yes, that would be his other 2 fiancés, said Jiraiya, who had given up writing. He leaps out the window on the toad he was still standing on after saying, CYA. Rewind to 6 months ago for a special meeting, or, as they came to refer to it, a 6-year mail delivery. Anko and Kuranai had been summoned to the Hokage office. The Hokage was seated at his desk when they got there and remarked, oh, I'm glad you 2 are here. I was instructed to deliver these to you and have you both read them at his house. I'm not sure why, but you 2 must work together. With a glance at Kuranai, Anko exclaimed, what the hell Gaki up to this time? I don't know, Kuranai said, we might as well start working on it. When they arrived at Naruto's house, they were in the living room when Anko nodded and said, okay, let's open them. When they opened them, they both exclaimed, what the hell? And then glanced at each other before Kuranai finally said, I understand the code is divided in a sentence. You have 1 word, and I have another, and so on. It makes sense that he wanted us to do it together, but why? There's only one way to know, Anko said, you first. You can tell who is speaking because Kuranai is bold and Anko is normal. Salutations, my dears. In order to prevent you from ruining the surprise and the options I have presented to you, I am writing these letters. If you decide later that you do not want what is being offered, please give the other person the letter and let her continue. I hope you both get through this and accept the gift I have for you. I love you both. Let's get started. Look for a scroll titled, Lonely Lotus, in the Genjutsu section of the library. Don't continue looking through these scrolls until you find it. As they made their way to the library, Kurenai asked. How did we get in this in the first place? Anko said. Let's go to the library? Added Anko. He broadsided us with his boyish charms and his spirit, I guess. According to Kurenai, or it could have been when we let him massage us into pleasure. You mean climax, don't you? Anko asked when they arrived at the library. Naruto had it divided into easily accessible sections and alphabetized, so Kurenai simply nodded while blushing. They quickly located the scroll and read what came next. Congratulations on finding the scroll. There is a genjutsu inside that you will need to cast later. For now, I want you to go to the kitchen and get a glass of water each, and then proceed to the master bedroom. I have 4 dressers, 3 of which are currently nameless, and 1 of which has my name on it. Open the middle drawer of the 9 dresser drawers, and you will find 2 scrolls with your name and 1 with mine. Once you have them, continue the scroll. Gaki is requesting it. Anko snarled. In the game of cat and mouse, I feel like the prey. We're almost done, Kurenai said. Hold on, we're almost at the bottom. Anko nodded, so they grabbed their water glasses and proceeded to the master bedroom, where they discovered the 3 scrolls. They now kept reading. Please sit down and place a glass of water on each side of the bed. You will understand why in a minute. Now, place the scroll with your name on it and only your name, or it could be dangerous. The genjutsu scroll I gave you earlier will react to the scroll you are holding in your lap, and at the end, you will have a choice similar to what you have now. Genjutsu is a memory jutsu, and it contains a memory for you based on which scroll you have of everything I have ever said or done with you. No more secrets. The choice is yours. It will take about an hour, and you will be thirsty afterward, which is what the water is for. I love you both, and I hope you both. Goodbye. After the 2 women exchanged glances, Anko remarked, well, why not? We will eventually find out what he knows about us, and we really have nothing to lose. Kurenai nodded. Despite his nervousness, and everything he had seen or done with them, both good and bad, began to appear as they opened the genjutsu scroll, and it activated both of them, drawing them into a world of white light. Kurenai witnessed her rescuing Naruto when he was a child, her attempting to get him to date her student, him rescuing her from rape, Asuma's death, the funeral of the 3rd, team placements, him delivering her an Asuma's child, their flirting, him kissing, dancing sensuously in the street, and many other happy and sad memories. As an examiner, she saved him when he was a child, helped him after Sasuke deceived, removed the curse seal multiple times, and saved her life from Orochimaru. She also engaged in prostitution, tortured Kabuto, flirted with him, threw him in a fight to get her to teach him, kissed him, tripped that villager, talked to her about her dreams, ate Dano, killed him out of sexual rage, and many other things. I did this so you would know why I feel the way I do for you, and that way I won't have any secrets when it comes to you, Naruto said as he stood in front of them after a flash. You hold a special place in my heart. I gave you this option, and now I'm giving you another. There are 2 rings for you inside the scroll with my name on it. You can choose not to accept either option, which indicates that I don't care about you enough. I apologize for that. A red ruby ring, on the other hand, is a sign that you want to date me and learn more about me. Since I gave you all the information I knew about you, you are free to make that decision. Though I may be mistaken, a white diamond is used in the other ring. It means something else. If you accept this offer, that ring will be yours. Will you marry me? He asked, getting down on one knee. You are aware that I will need to have multiple wives, and I would like you to be one of them. I've already mentioned my 3 hopes. Please accept the white ring as a token of my love if you are able to live with that decision. The flashback is over. Thank you both for accepting me and agreeing to be my wives, Naruto said, grinning as he glanced at the 2 women next to him and their hands. I wish to bring you both joy. Gaki, get up, Anko said. On the night of our wedding, you can drop to your knees. How the hell can you put up with her pervertedness, Narukan? Kurenai sighed. Grinning, Naruto said, look who my grandfather is. With a sigh, Kurenai remarked, good point. I can tell you're using your real name based on the way you dress. It was a promise I made the old farts, Naruto said, nodding. If I proudly wear my real name, they reduce the amount of drinking, gambling, and peeping not to oneself. Don't give alcohol to Shizune Nichin. Why? Anko asked. She dances on tables and strips to her undies, a woman's voice said behind them. Kurenai asked, Narukan, who's that? As Anko and Kurenai turned around. My name is Rin, and I'm his mother, the woman said with a smile. Hello, Mom, Naruto said, rubbing the back of his head. My other 2 fiancés are these 2. After blinking, Anko uttered the words, it's nice to meet you, Rin. Kurenai replied, I was hoping they would run into you. I am Kurenai and this is Anko. Wait a minute, that other girl already said yes. You never mentioned that in your letters. Let me explain. See, Naruto sighed. Rewind. The 4 of them were now standing in front of the case cage, 1 week after they had left Konoha. The case cage replied, So what do I owe the pleasure of the visit from two of the legendary three? Our grandson here recently contacted you regarding an arranged marriage between Suna and our clan. Tsunade stated we were pleased with your response when we received it. When Jiraiya here received some information. We were just beginning a training journey to assist him with his bloodline since he has one of the best spy networks in the world. We thought it would be a good opportunity to share it with you in order to establish trust between us and you. With a nod, the Cage asked, what exactly is it that you discovered? As you are undoubtedly aware, Sasori the Red vanished a number of years prior to your assumption of office. Jiraiya stated I have information about him that you would definitely want to know. We also learned the fate of the former Cage. The Cage said, proceed, because he was now genuinely interested. The contact informed me that Sasori used his skills to create human puppets and transformed the former Cage into one in order to utilize its iron sand using abilities. Jiraiya stated additionally, Sasori has now transformed 3/4 of his body into a puppet and is either a member of or getting ready to join a new gang of S-class criminals who intend to target your youngest son Gaara. Until the very end, the Cage was intrigued and taken aback by the information, asking in an emotive tone, why would S-class criminals want to take my son? The same reason they want to take me. Naruto remarked they have a method for eliminating all 9-tailed demons from the existing ships. I had no idea that the Leaf Village had one, the Cage said, blinking. Since Kyuubi is the only one who has attacked your village, I would presume that he is the one responsible. Yes, Naruto replied. For now, the Kyuubi is imprisoned within me. For now, what do you mean? Asked the Cage. My bloodline has the ability to control demons. Naruto stated it enabled me to control the demon's immense power, and with the aid of my bloodline and the seals, I will be able to fully absorb the demon's power by the time I'm 16, if not before. With a nod, the Cage remarked, that is indeed fortunate. It is also our village's biggest secret, Tsunade stated outside this room. Only one person is aware of it, the Hokage himself. Every adult in the village is aware that he possesses Kyuubi fewer than 10, or aware that he is the son of Yondaems fewer than 5, or aware that he is our grandson. I suppose you could understand why this needed to be kept a secret. What is the name of this group you were warning me about? The Cage asked, nodding. Akatsuki and so forth have recruited or are recruiting from my source, Jiraiya stated. In addition to recruiting, my source informs me that they won't be active for 6 years before they begin capturing and extracting them. They must ensure that all necessary precautions are in place. The Cage rubbed his temples and remarked, there are moments when it's difficult to know what's right. Cage, I don't want to go too far, but I heard some people talking on the way here inside the village about being afraid of Gaara because of the demon, Jiraiya said, nodding. Although I'm sure your best sealmaster did an excellent job, if you'd like, I could look it over and let you know if there's anything he could do to improve his control. My grandson has already devised a method to control more of his demonic chakra without harming his coils, making him the only Yondaime that I have seen with abilities that surpass or will surpass mine. After giving it some thought, the Cage said, I'll let you look, but I'll be there, and you can't do anything without my permission. I'll pay you with your grandson if you do. Agreed, Naruto said. Should we? After glancing at him, the Cage said, you coming? Naruto stated, since my life is involved and the fact I can sometimes come up with new sealing methods that my grandfather overlooks makes it a wise choice. Nodding, the Cage remarked, excellent, come with me. The Cage exclaimed, Gaara. As they soon arrived at Gaara's uncle's house after their hasty departure, please allow this man to view your seal with his grandson. Naruto said, Cage, and Gaara nodded before removing his shirt so that everyone could see it. His sand is concealing the real seal because, as far as I can tell, it has enough cracks to be a fake. Would you let me use a little of my bloodline to drop enough sand to reveal the real seal? The Cage exclaimed, of course, in shock that they could see his sand armor. Jiraiya walked over and looked at it, saying, I take back what I said that whoever did the sealing knew what they were doing. Naruto placed his hand on the ground and began to use his bloodline. 6 wooden pillars appeared out of the ground around Gaara, who appeared to calm down a lot, and the sand fell to the ground. He has trouble falling asleep, can he? No, the demon won't let him, said the Cage. Bullshit, said Jiraiya. He could sleep and still be in complete control of the demon's power if you so desired. Whoever did this combined a berserker seal with 2 incompatible seals. Gaara will be dead and the demon will be free in 5 to 15 years, in my opinion. I see, the Cage said. Would you be able to correct this error? Yes, Jiraiya said after taking a look at it, particularly with the assistance of Gaki's there I can break the other seal and put on a new one. Gaara's power and control over the demon would only increase. He would be able to sleep as well. According to the Cage, do it. Naruto met Temari today, and she said, thank you for giving my little brother back. 2 days later, the sealing was completed, and Gaara was asleep. Naruto replied, "Don't worry Tamari-hun, that's what family does." Tamari gave him a funny look and remarked, "Family, I was unaware of our kinship." "We're not," said Naruto. "I asked if I could marry you, Dad, as long as it's okay with you. We'll get married when we're older," he said. After giving him a quick glance, Tamari said, "Why not? You're cute and we're family." Finish the flashback. Since then, we have been exchanging letters, just like I have with you both, and I keep giving her the opportunity to change her mind. When we went there last month to see how Gaara's seal was doing, even Mom did. The Kagekage, his 3 children, and my family, including you two, are the only ones who are aware that the seal has been altered. I gave Tamari a ring that matched yours. She intends to stay here after taking the Chunin exams." Taking a deep breath, Anko asked, "So how did you find each other?" "Well, it all started when," Rin said. "Rewind 2 years. Rin, who rarely drinks, was sitting in a bar on October 10th, the day she lost her husband and son. Upon approaching, an inebriated man said, 'Hey baby, want to come back to my place for some fun?' Rin was sitting down with her glass and about to say something when someone said, 'Shizune Nichin, get off that table and put some cloths on before you make a fool of yourself.' Rin looked at the other people and saw Tsunade, Jiraiya, and Arashi. 'No, it can't be.' Rin turned and saw a woman she respected dancing at the table with only a pair of panties on and her breast wrapped. Rin began to approach them slowly. 'Arashi, is that you?' Rin asked as she approached. Shizune said in a very inebriated voice, 'Rin, I'm glad you could make it.' As Naruto turned around, 'I thought you would miss your son's birthday,' she said, before passing out. After glancing at Shizune and then at the man she believed to be her husband, Rin, who was a little inebriated, felt someone grab her and spin her around. The man from earlier said, 'Listen here bitch, nobody blows me off like that.' As the only sober person in the bar, unable to get drunk due to his demon chakra, Naruto, wearing a 15-year-old henge with blue eyes and blonde hair, had understood what Shizune had said and knew that this had to be his mother. He growled when the man grabbed her and twirled her around, but all of his gloves were off when he called her a bitch. He didn't care if a girl was his best friend or his worst enemy. He detested hearing that, and it was his mother. Upon approaching calmly, Naruto uttered the words, 'Listen buddy, go fuck yourself and leave my mother alone.' Either from the 3 bottles of sake she had just consumed or from Shizune calling this man her son and him calling her his mother to do anything. Rin stared at Naruto in disbelief and was unable to fully recover. She watched as the man swung at Naruto. In an attempt to hit a wall or something, Naruto ducked beneath the swing, grabbed the man by the back of his shirt and pants, and swung him hard away, landing face first in Tsunade's breast. Here's a history lesson for those who don't know much about Tsunade. She hates perverts, is terrible at gambling, doesn't know when to stop drinking, and when she's intoxicated, 2 things happen. First, she automatically overlays Jiraiya in her mind, and second, she doesn't feel guilty about holding back. Pants don't lessen the impact when you have Tsunade's strength, so when a man messes with her breasts, she did the only thing she would do. 'Jiraiya, I warned you for the last time, now you lose them.' She then grabbed what makes him a man and crushed them with her tremendous strength. Unfortunately for the man, Jiraiya, who was intoxicated beneath the table, had insisted on a drinking contest for Naruto's birthday, so Tsunade had 14 bottles of sake at this point. Shizune bailed out at 3 but began removing her clothes as she became hotter. After that, Jiraiya passed out at 12 bottles, and Naruto was on his 16th birthday. The poor guy screamed so loudly like a little girl that everyone in the bar turned and saw Tsunade still holding on, and all the men covered themselves. Feeling sorry for the poor bastard, Naruto did what any man would do in that circumstance. He went over and broke the guy's neck. He then turned around and grinned, dropping the henge to reveal his true self, and was about to say something when he noticed Shizune landing on Rin after jumping off the table, knocking them both unconscious as she yelled, "Bonzii." With a sigh, Naruto made a couple cage bun shins to transport his inebriated family members and flame Shushin to their hotel rooms. Put an end to the flashback, and Naruto and the others told me what had actually happened when I woke up. If he did his best to save his life all those times, Naruto said, I would be furious with the Hokage. I don't care if you were his fiancé. Ladies, no sex during the week. While everyone was staring at her, Kurenai turned to face Naruto, who asked, "Does insanity run in my family?" "No," Rin replied, "but even I can see that these 2 women are making every effort to bring you here and let you know I smell it." "Why must every role model I have in life be a pervert?" Naruto asked, giving him a forehead slap. "How do you think I survived after your dad died?" Rin asked with a smile. "You're a prostitute," Anko said, glancing at her. "No, of course not," Rin said. "I am an author." Kurenai let out a sigh, assuming everything was fine, but Rin went on. I write the female companion to Icha Paradise, men for fun. Anko remarked, you got those right, as Kurenai flushed. They're great, Naruto said, slapping his forehead once more before adding, I am surrounded by perverts. According to Anko, this coming from the kid at age of 5 had magic fingers and hands. After blushing, Rin uttered the words, chakra into the pressure points. With a glance in her direction, Naruto said, yeah, how did you know? You inherit your father's traits, Rin said, ignoring the 3 women behind him. Naruto approached and struck his head against the wall before turning to face the village and uttering the words, shit. After glancing at each of the 3 women, he said, Gaara's here. Rin said, how do you? But was interrupted by a swirl of sand and 4 figures appeared in his front room. One was an older man with a long trench coat and a sword by his side. The other was dressed in black, with a package on his back and makeup on his face. Next to him was a boy with red hair and the kanji for love. He, too, had a long trench coat, but it was brown, with his arms crossed and a smile on his face. And immediately next to him was a stunning blonde girl wearing a white battle outfit with a fan on her back that featured a Kyuubi and Shukaku fighting. I haven't seen Tamariheim in a long time, Naruto said, turning to face them. It's nice to see Baki and Gaara as well. I don't speak to Kankuro, your puppet. It's good to see you as well, brother, Gaara said. True, the Kankuro's puppet chuckled, adding, but I only show the real me to women and on the battlefield. Naruto replied, maybe that's why no one has actually seen you since you became a genin 2 months ago. How the hell did you convince Gaara to embarrass me like that, Naruken? Baki laughed, and Tamari came over to give him a passionate kiss, which she broke apart and slammed her fan into his head. Gave him all of Eroanen's books, Naruto remarked. And I never been happier. Gaara said. Tamari began to scream and said, you had him go into his Shukaku form outside the village and dance while you had the song play Walk This Way. Naruto replied, I still did not know you could do the split like that, Gaara, in your demon form. It's a good thing I was 200 feet tall then, huh? Asked Gaara, grinning. It's good to see you again, Rin, Baki said after clearing his throat and surveying the room. Please tell me who these women are. Calm down, Baki. They won't reveal anything, Naruto said. My other 2 fiancés, Kurenai and Anko, are on the right and left, respectively. After giving them a critical glance, Tamari approached them and declared, I will kill you if either of you breaks his heart. Kurenai gave the girl a dumbfounded look, and Anko chuckled and said, Gaki, you have excellent taste in women. Nobody is taken advantage of by any of us. Baki apologized after clearing his throat. This trip is for business. With a serious, flat voice, Naruto nodded and said, go ahead, Baki. As Tamari turned to hear what was being said, 2 pairs of arms grabbed her and pulled her away from the group, and the 3 fiancés had a brief conversation once they were sufficiently separated. A man came to our village proposing an alliance, Gaara said. During that time, in reality, the father declined the offer, but he told the man he would accept in order to obtain more information. The man hails from the village of Hidden Sound. Naruto replied, he proposes that you join up with them to attack us during the Chunin exams. Baki replied, your grandfather's spy network is as good as ever I see. With a nod, Naruto asked, what else? He wants to warn you and your Hokage, but he is behaving as though we are their allies, Gaara said. For now, that's all we have. We won't be able to return until after the tests. If what my grandfather's sources said is accurate, then the Sound Village intends to betray you as well, Naruto said, nodding. Once you've committed, they intend to murder your father and replace him around exam time. I'll make sure we're on our end as well, so be cautious with that information. We have to leave, Baki said, nodding. I wish we could stay, but in order to get here to tell you, we had to divert from another mission. Nobody has noticed us outside this house when we were close enough. Gaara brought us to your chakra with his shushin. I apologize. CYA makeup, Naruto said, nodding, and slapping the package on Kankuro's back before approaching Gaara and giving him a tight hug and saying, take it easy, bro, don't let the village affect you, and keep in mind my warnings. Gaara replied, just make sure if you ever need my help to call. I hate having to leave like this, Haim, Naruto said, nodding as he approached Tamari. We can hang out after the tests. Baka, Tamari said, slamming her fan over his head. You had better keep your word because it's only been a few months. Like I promised, said Naruto, nodding. My cruise line will offer a month-long honeymoon tour. We have a full year and a half left to make plans. What are you both talking about? Asked Kurenai. Naruto remarked, I purchased a cruise line that visits a number of tropical islands. While I was away, I had intended for our honeymoons to be like that, but that won't happen until I receive my Junin status, which won't happen for another year and a half. Anko replied, "You are so sure you will be a Junin then, huh?" Naruto stated, "I could probably pass Junin now, but I want to at least work with a Genin team for a little bit." Baki responded, "I am sorry to cut this short, but we must be off." Gaara covered all four of them in sand as Naruto nodded and planted a kiss on Temari. "Is any day of your life normal?" asked Rin. "Nope," Naruto said. He smiled and said, "They'll have a village-wide party the day I die." "So you going to tell the Hokage?" asked Anko. Anko said, "I hate to cut it short, but I have to meet Ibiki in less than an hour." After Naruto nodded, "I need to go back and apologize to Asuma." Kurenai said, "I kind of poured my drink all over him when I heard you were back." The entire fucking village heard him return. Rin said, "When he did that, I was enjoying torturing Kakashi." "Then what are you doing here?" asked Naruto. Rin replied, "I had his mask and your song distracted me long enough for him to get away without me seeing his face." Anko and Kurenai were kissed by Naruto, who made a clone and flamed Shushin away before reappearing behind them and declaring, "I love you both and can't wait to see you Aegean." According to Anko, "You have to Gaki," as Naruto put it. "Why is that?" Kurenai stated, "We had to wait on you after speaking with Temari. You must now wait for us, no dates or kissing until Temari visits the village for the exams." They both smiled as they walked away, laughing at the fake hurt expression on his face. Rin chuckled as she left the room as well with a sigh. Naruto questioned, "Why do women have to be so troublesome?" A languid cloudwatcher sneezes from a hilltop across the village. The following day, Naruto sighed as he entered his classroom for a group project. After he finished speaking, he turned to face everyone and said, "Yo." They all went home to inform their parents about what had transpired, and each person's response was different. Let's examine Sakura's flashback. When Sakura went outside, her mother was there and greeted her, saying, "Hey mom, guess what? I made it through." According to Mrs. Haruno, "Great Sakura, we also had a new student arrive, and guess what?" Sakura said he is the Sanin Tsunade and Jiraiya's grandson. Mrs. Haruno said, "Sakura dear," after giving her a startled look. "Are you certain of that?" Sakura remarked, "Jiraiya of the Sanins entered and declared that he was, in addition to being the son of a man named Arashi Kazama. Who the hell is that?" With a sick feeling in her stomach, Mrs. Haruno asked, "Sakura dear, what was the boy's name?" "Oh, Naruto Uzumaki Kazama," Sakura uttered. "Why?" Mrs. Haruno experienced a flashback to 6 years ago. "Then maybe whoever did was a better person than you," Inoichi said. "Goodbye." As she heard that again, she felt a knot in her stomach. She looked at Inoichi and noticed that he was grinning at her. Sakura flash Inoichi's end. "Dad, I'm a ninja now. Are you going to teach me any new jutsu now?" Ino yelled as she approached. Inoichi remarked, "Maybe Princess. Who else passed?" Ino replied, "Well, I know Forehead did, and so did Sasuke-kun and that new kid. What was his name? Oh yeah, the new kid Naruto Kazama. You know, he seemed cocky and all, especially when his grandfather busted through the window on a huge from." "Why do you say the guy with the frog was his grandfather, and what did the Naruto look like?" Inoichi asked, looking at her at first in shock at hearing Kazama, but then he realized that the frog could only be one person. Ino replied, "Well, Naruto had whiskers on his face and blonde hair and blue eyes, and the guy with the frog said he was, and he also said he was also the dad of Arashi Kazama, whoever that was." Remembering what he had said years before, Inoichi grinned to himself and thought, "I'll be damned, no wonder the kid looked like Arashi." He then turned to face Mrs. Haruno and grinned when she gave him a look. Inoichi replied, "Ino, you might want to get to know Naruto better. If he is anything like the rest of his family, he's going to do big things." Ino replied, yeah, but not as big as Sasuke-kun." The flash and the others reacted with similar shock and concern. Ino approached him after he had taken a seat and asked, "What was that yesterday with those two women?" "Oh, that just my fiancés saying hi," Naruto said, as if it were a typical, everyday occurrence. Returning, Sasuke yelled, "Fight me!" "Hey Nara," Naruto said, glancing over, "is he always this troublesome?" With a blink, Shikamaru replied, "Yes, do I know you?" Naruto replied, "Not really, we met once before I left the village, but as was mostly in passing. It was about 6 years ago. In fact, I met most of the people in this room at least once: Sasuke, Sakura, Ino, Choji, Kiba, Hinata, Shino, and you Shikamaru." Ino replied, "You have a good memory to remember her names from 6 years ago." Naruto took out a bottle of sake and poured him some, saying, "Yeah, anyways, what you guys do for fun in this village? I am immune to alcohol, so I can't get drunk like everyone in my family. I just like the taste," he said as they all stared at him. Kiba replied, so Jiraiya and Tsunade is your grandparents and your dad is some guy named Arashi Kazama. Who is that anyways? As everyone in the classroom realized what he meant, Naruto spat his saliva out and looked at him, saying, what the hell they teaching you nowadays? I figured they would have told you the Yondaime Hokage's real name. Sakura replied, it must be great coming from so many famous people. Ino replied, who is your mom as she is famous as the others? Naruto smirked to himself as he looked at the class and said, actually she is famous and a ninja, but she's famous for being an author. Her author name is Bichi Rin. Several of the girls in the class recognized the name. Kiba looked perplexed as he said, I don't know a Bichi Rin. Naruto replied, you wouldn't. She only writes books for females and your family doesn't talk about her. Kiba questioned, how do you know that? When Iruka and Shizune enter, Naruto yells, hide the sake. As he puts his away, making Shizune flush. Naruto then takes another sip of sake and says, because if they haven't told you about your aunt by now they won't. According to Shizune, shut it Nissan, are you related to him also? Asked Sakura. Shizune replied, it's honorary, my master Tsunade is his grandmother. Iruka responded, okay class, Mizuki won't be joining us anymore because he had an accident, so Shizune here is his temporary replacement. Okay, teams are as follows: Team 7 Sakura, Sasuke, Naruto. Why is the new kid on our team? Asked Sakura. Naruto stated, I was not here to do book tests so my grades are a 0, but since I was trained anyways I pass and the highest book grades and lowest are put together. Exactly right, now Team 8 is Kiba, Shino, and Hinata, Team 10 is Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru. Your teachers will be here sure. Iruka said at that moment. A man with gray hair and his head covering one eye rushed through the door, slammed it shut, and leaned against it while panting. A voice on the other side of the door said, Kakashi-kun, come out wherever you are, as everyone started to perspire. When Kakashi noticed Naruto, he turned to face him and remarked, yo, I was trying to get lost on the road of life when I ran into trouble. Team 7, I'm Kakashi and I'm your sensei. First lesson, stop this mad woman. After that, meet me on the roof. Naruto turned to him and said, you're on your own Kakashi. I only fear 6 women and one is in the front of the class and one is on the other side of that door. Kakashi got up and ran out the window, while Sasuke said, whatever loser, and then stood up and walked to the door. The door burst off the hinges and struck Sasuke in the face as he reached to open it. I have to thank Tsunade for that technique. Now where is Kakashi? Rin said as she entered. According to Naruto, he went out the window. Mom, what kind of dysfunctional life do you have? Ino asked as everyone started to perspire. The best kind. Let's meet on the roof, Naruto said. Then he rose and walked over the fallen Sasuke. 2 figures entered just as he was ready to pass through the now doorless door. With a glance around, Asuma asked, what happened here? Naruto stated, my mom is determined to remove Kakashi mask. She did that. Who is your mom? Naruto. Asuma asked. Asuma looked at Kurenai and said, what? Kurenai said, Kakashi old teammate Rin. According to Asuma, how do you know that? Everyone started to perspire when Kurenai asked, why wouldn't I know my future mother-in-law? Good to see you Aegean Sensei Heim, Naruto remarked. Kurenai replied, don't forget no more until your other fiancé comes back. After letting out a sigh and saying, don't torture you students too much, Naruto approaches Sasuke and kicks him, saying, get up, bastard. Sasuke moans as Sakura and Ino yell at Naruto for injuring him, but he chooses to ignore them. How the hell did you and him get together? Asuma asked, glancing at Kurenai. Kurenai concluded, long story short, he makes me happy. Besides I am the tame on of his 3 fiancés. After falling on his butt, Asuma uttered the words, 3 who are the other 2? Ignoring Asuma's shocked expression, Naruto, who was passing by with Sasuke and Sakura, remarked, oh just the daughter of the Kazekage and Anko. With a clear throw, Asuma said, right, Team 10 with me. They both departed with their teams after Kurenai said, Team 8 with me. Team 7 started to perspire as soon as they got to the roof like a rodeo animal. Kakashi was hanging upside down with his hands and feet bound together. Kakashi looked at them and replied, well Team 7, I am Kakashi and I am your sensei. I would have you tell me about you and then give you a stupid test tomorrow to see if you're ready to actually be a ninja, but out of fear I want, so meet at the Hokage office 7 AM and don't be late cuz I want for mission dismissed. Damn it, I thought I had him this time. Rin, who was holding the rope, exclaimed as Kakashi vanished in smoke, and she immediately set out to locate him. Sakura asked, why is she so determined to see his face? As she turned to face Naruto. Naruto stated, Nobody has seen Kakashi FCE since the day he was born. She is determined to do it first. According to Sakura, why first, Naruto stated, hers and Jiraiya's publisher has offered a $1 billion reward for a picture of Kakashi face without his mask. Since then she has vowed to be the first. Sakura replied, why does their publisher want that so bad, and how do you know anyways? Naruto replied, well, my father wanted it done and I am the publisher of both companies that publish their books. Soon the secret will be revealed, haha. You are an idiot and a weakling, Sasuke remarked. What he said? Sakura said. Naruto threw flamed Shushin aside after saying, to each his own CYA. The more things change, the more they remain the same, goes an old proverb. Naruto has been a genin for a month now. At first, Team 7 underwent some changes actually. This is how it began, and only the first day would be more accurate. Okay. Now that you are all here, our mission is to catch the Fire Lord's cat Tora. Let's go, said Kakashi, who had already arrived with a mission scroll at the Hokage office where Naruto and his team were supposed to meet. After the cat escaped, they followed him outside and strolled to its favorite spot. Sakura pointed to the cat and yelled, Sasuke-kun, there it is. When the cat saw them, it took off running after Sakura and Sasuke began to follow. Kakashi turned to face Naruto and remarked, you know you need to help your team, right? As Naruto put it, I know, but I also know something else. As Kakashi put it, what's that? After saying this, Naruto conjured up 10 cage bunshin, transformed them into male cats, and made them begin pursuing Tora. Sweating, Kakashi uttered the words, what will that do? Naruto laughed and replied, you ever see what a cat will do when it's in heat but don't want to be messed with, especially when male cats are after it? No, Kakashi replied. Naruto uttered, watch. 20 seconds later, Sasuke yelled, God damn you, you fucking cat, I'm going to kill you. Sakura yelled, get off of Sasuke-kun's face, you stupid cat, and the cat continued to scratch Sasuke as they returned to the clearing. After glancing at Naruto, Kakashi remarked, that was mean. Naruto stated, when in that situation the cat will go for the highest point it could get. This case was Sasuke face. As the cats kept clawing Sasuke, Kakashi sighed. They returned to the tower and handed the cat in. As he walked away in a flurry of leaves, Kakashi said, well, that was a good start, but we need to work on our teamwork. Dismissed. Naruto began searching after hearing a reverberation throughout the house. When he arrived home he discovered that it was coming from his mother's room. When he heard the words, harder, harder, I want more, give it to me Kakashi, I'm almost there, I'm going to... Naruto turned pale and began to back away. He had been reaching for the doorknob. Unfortunately, that set off a tripline that he didn't notice, and he was struck in the back by a huge rubber mallet. Before being knocked into the door he flew through the door. When he struck it, Naruto flew into his mother's room as a result of the door flipping over like a fan blade due to a bar that ran through it rather than opening normally. Once inside, he was pulled upside down and had his legs bound with ninja wire. A whipped cream pie struck him in the face. After he was upside down he was covered in feathers and honey flour after the pie fell off. When he eventually stopped moving and the traps were finished, he turned to see his mother sitting in a beach chair sipping a glass of tea. Kakashi was sitting next to her, his arms crossed, and he was clearly grinning behind that fucking mask. So is my editor going to call off the little bounty on Kakashi face? Rin asked, glancing at Naruto. Yes. How long have you both been setting this up? Naruto sighed. Rin continued, from the moment you left Kakashi house the day we arrived, the little act at the school and Kakashi being on time was all a ploy to trick you, son. Says Naruto. Damn it, fine, you win? Kakashi replied, by the way I like your library, I got a few jutsu out of it. How many do you know? As Naruto put it, enough. Which ones? Kakashi raised his eyebrows and replied, your mom let me look at them and I only picked 2 Raiden jutsu. I already know so many, I don't really want any new ones. I did pick Raiden, Thundershock and Raiden, Dragon Missile. I am curious how you got the Chidori though. Naruto stated, Dad left me a copy of all the jutsu in the Forbidden Scroll and Chidori was in it. I can do it but only 1 time a day. My affinities are wind, earth, water, and wood. Also the reason there are so many jutsu in there since the Kazama Estates was destroyed and I did not want to mess with the idiots too much. I started a new family jutsu library. Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Shizune gave me a lot of jutsu, and in our travels I would buy or trade some low-level jutsu I had bought with money I won off of Tsunade. I probably only know enough to make me a chunin, though I got tree climbing and water walking down. Kakashi nodded and continued, I like the idea of starting a family library since you got 2 of the most sought-after women in the village going to marry you, I hear. I don't know how the hell you pulled that one off. I also hear you got a 3rd one from another village. It's good you know some decent jutsu then as well as the chakra exercises. Now I don't really have to train your team. As you probably guess, I only originally became a sensei to train the Uchiha because of the council. After I saw you were back, I was actually going to train you, but seeing as you already are probably Junin status in knowledge and just need experience, I will go back to doing what I want. If you need any real help though, let me know. Thanks again for the laughs, Rin. I hope we can do it again sometimes. Naruto replied, do me one favor, please don't teach him Rasengan or Chidori. I know all about his brother and his mental instability. The third sent some info to the old hag and Erosanin about it. I think if he sees someone who might be truly stronger than him, he might try and kill them. Kakashi raised his eyebrows and replied, I agree with you, and I would never teach anyone Rasengan. As far as I am concerned, that is you're in your clans, even though I do have to wonder how you know I knew Rasengan. Naruto stated, Jiraiya, when he was teaching me, said I asked a question about the control you had mentioned when trying to work on a jutsu. He knew just by that discussion which one it had to be. I need to be going, Kakashi said. Nodding, Rin replied, sure thing Kakashi, well, have dinner sometimes. CYA Kakashi. Rin said, you may have your father's looks, but I gave you your prankster side, son. Don't mess with a master. Rin then chopped Kakashi down and said, now clean up the mess. Kakashi left in a flurry of leaves. Missions with Team 7 proceeded as planned. After that, despite being 3 hours late, Kakashi was with Rin, enjoying their company despite the fact that they were only friends. Rather than getting lost on the road of life, missions were dull, but Naruto almost always managed to make them go more quickly or demonstrate his superiority over Sasuke, which infuriated him. Despite spending all of her time following Sasuke, Sakura was blind to his signs of distress. Anko and Kurenai had been avoiding him, but not out of malice, no, because she worked in Ibiki's investigation department. Anko was receiving a lot of ABNU missions after attempting to break in to steal the Forbidden Scroll. Mizuki was swiftly apprehended thanks to an anonymous tip. Ibiki was able to stop him after that, and they obtained some leads regarding the activities of Orochimaru and a few other dubious individuals. Kurenai would have seen Naruto, but her father had expelled Hinata from the Hyuga compound. She was even more melancholy and mentally fragile without Naruto's initial presence to give her courage in order to monitor her. Kurenai had her move into her home. She was expelled from the academy on graduation day, which was just plain bad luck. The last straw was when her father learned that she had been beaten by the Uchiha in class. In addition to sending them gifts and flowers, Naruto also stopped by to check on them whenever he saw them. Anko's was unhappy that she spent most of her free time sleeping and catching up on daily tasks, but the occasional encounters with Naruto helped. Anko was also able to obtain additional information from suspected traitors thanks to her memory genjutsu. Naruto granted them privacy because Kurenai had been boosting Hinata's self-esteem and did not want to be sidetracked by helping the poor girl. Despite this, the Runins helped them realize their continued love for one another. The Hokage was compelled to speak the truth after the council somehow learned of Naruto's claims to be the Yondiem's son. Following that, his bloodline and grandparents' identities were also revealed. There were conflicting responses, and some council members attempted to exert some control over him by using their influence. Rewind: the council disagreed on Naruto's potential power. They were now talking about the attempt to get rid of him by those who still detested him due to the Kyuubi. He is a threat and the demon could be take over, a civilian said. Inoichi continued, the Yondiemi would not have took a risk like that with his own flesh and blood if he was not sure it would hold. Danzo replied, he should be properly trained and turned into a weapon of the village. Tsunade remarked, enough, I am saying this once and only once. Any actions to harm him or anyone close to him will invoke the laws of this village charter and our clan will use its authority. Rin, representing the Kazama clan, and Tsunade, who were in their clan seats, were growing irate. Danzo exclaimed, what nonsense is this? The third, who knew this from Naruto, said, Tsunade's clan owns everything from the south gates to the academy and the Hokage Mountain. No matter what buildings are on it, they own all rights to them, including the building we are in. If they so choose, they can force everyone who lives or own business in them to leave and have the backing of the Fire Lords and the other clans of Konoha that would be forced to side with them or lose all right to their lands and homes. In other words, it would be anyone who is on their lands against the clans of Konoha. As for making him a weapon, Danzo, he is also protected by the same laws, so you can't touch him. Funny thing is, the council member who called him a demon a few minutes ago could be executed for breaking my law, but I think I would rather tell you this: by the time he is 16, the demon inside him will be gone. Final flashback: things somewhat calmed down after that. No one significant left town, but a few people did. A week or so after team assignments, the major speed bump occurred. Rewind: Rin was shopping for family supplies at the grocery store. As she was about to check on her sister, she smelled something and turned to see her standing in the doorway, leaning against the doorframe and staring at her. After gathering her belongings, she took out a scroll that Naruto had created, placed it on the counter, and stacked the items on top of it. All of the items inside the scroll automatically sealed. She went to her sister after picking up the scroll. Sume replied, "So I see my little sister finally returned. I heard some interesting things from my son." Being completely naive and unsure of her intentions, Rin said, "Really, sister, what would those be? Is it true you married the Yondiami and had that little mutt?" Sume asked, her eyes narrowing. Rin continued, Well, I see someone still upset that her younger sister was better than her at everything and was going to be clan head. I mean, I beat you at all of our little spars. Next I find a man who is better than almost all men, and then I have a son who's even better than yours, and you can't handle it. Perhaps I am not the biggest bitch anymore, or maybe I should put you down for good," as she smiles as she walks away. Sume was furious with her sister, so she used chakra to extend her nails and swung at Rin. Rin ducked under the swipe, grabbed Sume by the hair, and shouted, "Guess I am after all the biggest bitch, runt." Sume then kicked her in the face, sending her flying, grabbing her feet, and flinging her head. "It's good to see you still tough as ever, sis. I'm still sorry for what the clan did. I think you made the right choice. You and Naruto should come by sometime." Sume stood up slowly, panting, grinning, and with a busted nose. "I wish I had known back then that he was your son, though I could have protected him." Rin nodded and said, "We might, but give us a little time. We are still settling back, and also it's probably best you did not know. If you would have protected him, it could have started a clan war, and you had to think about what's best for the pack. It's good too." At that moment, 4 ABNU showed up, and one of them spoke in a venomous voice, asking, "What's going on here? Are you causing trouble, Kazama?" Sume replied, "Rel-X ABNU, or I might just have the Hokage bust you back to Genin for messing with me and my sister. Just don't disturb the peace any longer or I will run you both in," the flinching horse ABNU said. "Please," Rin snorted, "you could not even touch us, much less run us both in." The 4 of them departed after the horse ABNU said, "We shall see, mark my words." Rin and Sume both burst out laughing, and Rin remarked, "Don't mess with the big dogs." In a flurry of leaves, Sume said, "Especially when they are a pair of bitches like us. Well, I have to go CYA around sometime, sis." Final flashback. The third said, "Right, Team 7, I think you are ready for a higher rank mission. It's an escort mission. Send him in." Naruto sighed as he stood in the Hokage office, bored. When he walked in, an elderly man holding a bottle of sake said, "Is this all I get for my money?" The blonde looks like he's about to fall asleep. He lifted his bottle to take a sip, but it vanished. Before anyone knew it, Naruto turned the sake bottle upside down and emptied it. A sudden, "Ahhhhh, that was good," was heard. "Are you sure you're not an alcoholic?" asked Sakura. Naruto laughed and said, "Like I told you, it's physically impossible for me to get drunk. I just really like the taste, and the old man has spilt more of this sake on his cloths than he has in his mouth. I just hated to see it go to waste." With wide eyes, Tazana quickly covered them with a quick, "Right, my name is Tazana and I have a bridge to build you or to protect me back home and until the bridge is complete." "All right," Kakashi said, nodding, "Meet at the west gate in 1 hour." Team 8 entered at that moment, and Kiba declared, "Mission complete." He turned to say, "Hey Kus, are you ready to see who's top dog yet?" "Chunin exams Kus, we got a C-rank mission to head on," snorted Naruto. "What?" Kiba yelled, "I demand that we also get one Hokage-sama." "I'm sorry, but we don't have any more missions for you at Genin team today," the Hokage said after glancing at the teams. Naruto cleared his throat and said, "Hokage-sama, perhaps it would be a good chance to work on our teamwork with another team. Who knows what we might encounter on this mission." The third narrowed his eyes thoughtfully, and Sasuke said, "Dobi, we don't need another team to slow us down. You just want them to go so you can go with your WH. Naruto interrupted him with a focus shot of Ki saying, "Sasuke, we're teammates and I value your skills and opinions on mission-related items, but never insult a friend or someone precious to me. I did not make the suggestion for personal reason. If I had, I would have requested a mission with Sarahime as well. No, the reason I stated is what I meant. We may occasionally have to work with another team, and if we never get experience doing that, then who knows what will happen when we actually need it." The third replied, "I agree that Naruto does raise a valid point and it would be good." A swirl of sand appeared in the Hokage office, and a very irate-looking Gaara was standing there when Naruto jumped back 5 feet from where he was standing, turning toward the village gates quickly enough to give everyone the impression that an attack was about to occur. As everyone went on the defensive, the third person asked, "What is the meaning of this interruption and who are you?" Naruto replied, "Gaara, what are you doing here and why alone?" Gaara replied, "Brother, we need to talk privately, now." Naruto gave a nod and replied, "Hokage-sama, can we have a few minutes to talk? Gaara is the Cage's son, and if he is here it's important. Would everyone leave the room except Naruto and Gaara? Asked the third, nodding. After everyone nodded and departed with Tazuna, Naruto asked, "What's wrong?" as the door closed. "Your information was accurate. Gaara said the Sound Village did have a plan to murder my dad. He successfully defended himself against 20 of their men. He lived because I could feel his chakra fighting others while my team was returning. The only reason we haven't declared war on Temari and Kankuro yet is because there has already been an attempt on my family's life in the hospital. Temari and Kankuro are both currently in the hospital in Suna. Don't worry. They simply have chakra exhaustion. We were warned that our family would be killed unless we assisted them in destroying you." As the third of Naruto's fists opened and closed, he asked, "What does the Cage plan to do now?" Gaara stated, "We plan to go with the plan. We are with them but aid you in your village when the time comes, but we also plan to aid Kazama clan since we have an alliance with them." "Very well," sighed the third. "Since we're here and Naruto is the only one who could have known you were coming, I assume this is a covert mission." "Right, Gaara, tell Temari. I love her and can't wait to see her, and I promise you brother, we will get them," Naruto said after Gaara nodded. The third sighed, "Orochimaru must be desperate to try and blackmail the Cage." Gaara simply shook his head once before disappearing in a whirlpool of sand. "The fact that he is still alive now means that my information is not as reliable," Naruto said, nodding. "He is likely tense because Tsunade and Jiraiya are here all the time, and he knows he needs a big diversion like Shukaku to help him." "I understand," said the third, nodding, "and we'll still get ready using the information you provided. He cannot alter many of his plans without risking our discovery. Attempts at assassination must be a contingency. I'll make up a story, so go ahead and bring everyone back in." After Naruto nodded to everyone, the third person said, "I apologize for the interruption. Team 7, proceed with your mission as scheduled. Group 8, I would send you with Team 7, but I have an urgent mission that requires your team. I'll have more information about tomorrow later. Do not bring up our guest's presence." Sasuke replied, "Why was he here and why did the Dobi here get to stay and I didn't?" He was still opening and closing his hand, but only the third one was seen by Kakashi and Kurenai. Naruto explained, "He's here because my grandfather sent a present to my fiancée who is his sister and he came to defend her honor." Kakashi departed in a flurry of leaves after saying, "Right, meet at the south gates in 1 hour. Dismissed." "See ya dog breath," Naruto said, turning to face Kiba. The third and Kakashi were actually having perverted giggles, and Hinata watched with a mixture of loneliness and self-doubt as she kissed her hand, making everyone perspire except Sakura, who was screaming kawaii, and Kurenai, who flushed. Then, to prepare, he departed in a whirl of flame. According to Sasuke, "I demand someone tell me how he does that." "Only he can do that," Kurenai said. "It is related to his ancestry." After saying, "Then it's useless," Sasuke left to prepare, with Sakura following suit. Although Naruto had changed into a Junin-style vest with his sword strapped on his back and a pair of black blue jean shorts, his team and Tazuna were already at the south gates when he arrived. "Do you really know how to use that thing or is it for show?" asked Sasuke after glancing over. As he started to wave, Naruto remarked, "You won't know unless I need it." Sakura replied, "Naruto, get back here, you don't know the way to wave country." "Actually, Sakura, I was there about 4 years ago," Naruto remarked. At the time, a man by the name of Gato was attempting to purchase every shipping right. "What a dickhead," and delighted in Tazuna's response to the name Gato as the group proceeded with the mission. "Hey, Bevis and Butthead, get your asses out of there or Zabuza is going to kick you asses or I might do it for him, Aegean," Naruto said as he stopped when he noticed a puddle of water in the road about 2 hours later. When the puddle shifted and 2 men slowly emerged from it, looking pale and saying in a stuttery voice, "Naruto, what are you doing here?" Sakura and Sasuke stared at him as if he were crazy, and Kakashi was drenched in sweat. "Okay, who's the idiot who hired Zabuza?" snorted Naruto. "Gato, he hired us to kill the old man there," the taller one said. "Don't kill us, please." Naruto replied, "Kakashi, talk to the client please and see if he can tell us anything else. Me and my colleges are going to have a little chat." Nodding, Kakashi remarked, "You know they're missing Nin's right. According to Naruto, they are also spies for Jiraiya. Tell Zabuza and Haku to meet us on the road when we get to Wave and don't try any of that scare shit or I will bitch slap both of them," Naruto said after Kakashi nodded. "Now go." Both men nodded, then bounded off, approaching Kakashi and declaring, "We got an inside informant later." Kakashi replied, "You know I will have to take you in when we get back to face the Hokage." Naruto replied, "Yes, but I am going to talk Zabuza into coming back with us." Why did they act so scarred around you? Asked Kakashi. Before he could say anything, Sasuke rushed over and exclaimed, Hey Dobi, what was up with those guys and why did you tell Kakashi what to do? How were you aware of their presence? With a drop of perspiration, Naruto asked, Sakura, when was the last time it rained? Why? Sakura asked, 2 weeks ago. Both of them started perspiring when Naruto asked, and how long do you think a puddle of water could last with the heat we had the past 2 weeks on a road? Kakashi remarked, we don't have to continue the mission since the client lied, while Naruto muttered, idiots, and carried on walking. Naruto replied, question Kakashi, what was Tazana's reaction when I mentioned Gato when we left the village 2 hours ago? Truthfully, I don't know. Kakashi uttered. The book in Kakashi's hand was vaporized in flames faster than anyone could see after Naruto slapped his forehead. Naruto then made a click sound as he withdrew his hand from his sword. 3 people were left on the ground, Kakashi weeping and their mouths open, but they carried on with their mission. Naruto grinned as he reflected on the past year. Rewind. As he was about to take a break, Naruto felt a presence and said, hello stranger, can I help you with something? He was in Rain Country, working on a modified Rasengan that could incorporate ice, and because of his affinity for wind, water, and earth, he could make wood out of earth and water, or ice out of wind and water, but that would be more difficult. I was wondering, are you able to do that because of a bloodline? Said a woman who appeared to be a girl. Naruto turned to face her and said, yes and no, Haku. How do you know my name? Inquired Haku. My name is Naruto Kazama, and I am the son of Arashi Kazama the Yellow Flash. Naruto grinned. In addition to being one of my teachers, my grandfather is the Toad Sannin Jiraiya. I'm training right now, but I haven't found a Kenjutsu instructor to help me with my style. I'm also trying to find someone to teach me Ice Jutsu. My grandfather's spy network allowed him to learn about you and him as a proposal and a small token of my interest. I have a scroll for you and your master along with the proposal and instructions to meet with me in person to discuss the deal. He has $100,000 sealed. I simply waited to give it to you until I found you. May I? He said, gesturing to his pocket. In order to let her know he wasn't attacking, Haku, who was reaching for her senbons and beginning to sigh with one hand, nodded, and Naruto slowly reached for a scroll, pulled it out, and handed it to her with both hands. The following day, Zabuza and Haku approached Jiraiya and Naruto at the same location and asked, so what exactly is this deal? Simply put, Naruto stated, I am on a training trip with my family right now, and as I mentioned to Haku, I am the son of Arashi Kazama, Konoha's Yellow Flash. As you are already aware, my father had many enemies, and they would kill me simply for being his son. I am learning from the best in every field I can because I refuse to live in fear. This is Jiraiya. My grandfather has heard of you and your assistant, and one of the 7 swordsmen would make an excellent teacher of Kenjutsu. Since I can use both wood and ice, I would also like to learn some Ice Jutsu. To help me with my style, I schedule a 1-month lesson. You will receive $500,000 in return, which will be divided into 1/4 of each week of the month. Additionally, Jiraiya would like to give you a $100,000 annual bonus at the end of the month for any information you find that could have an impact on Konoha or the Kazama family. In addition to telling the Twiddle-Dee and Dumb in the woods behind me that I can easily kill them because I had this location set up in case you decide to attack first and then ask questions, simple knowledge can be sent through a secure messenger. What say you, Demon of the Mist? I'll even have my grandmother give Haku some free medical jutsu there. After giving him a quick glance, Zabuza asked, who is your grandmother? After emerging from the forest, someone said, my name is Tsunade of the Sannins. Kid, I like your style, having 2 of the most dangerous people in the world train you and then wanting me too, Zabuza said, looking pale. Okay, but only after you demonstrate your abilities by competing against me in a Kenjutsu match. Finish the flashback. As they continued to walk, Naruto laughed to himself. An ice mirror appeared in the middle of the road at around 5 o'clock that evening, and 2 people emerged. Kakashi was about to respond when Naruto remarked, so I see your nose is fixed, huh Zabuza? I'm still baffled by how you managed to pull that off, kid, Zabuza remarked. What do you want, then? Simple, said Naruto, what's dipshit paying you? 10,000, said Zabuza. Why? Naruto replied, he got any kind of security beside you and your men. About 200 merc, Zabuza stated. For someone like you, not much. Well, sorry for pissing the Mist Village off, said Naruto, mockingly hurt. Is that what you called it? Asked Zabuza, who began to laugh. As you were aware, you were given a nickname for eliminating more than 1,200 ninja in a single attack. A $2 billion bounty has been placed on your head. Kakashi asked, what are they calling him? while glancing at Naruto. I suppose I will have to tell the story. Naruto sighed. It all began as I prepared to complete my training under Zabuza. Rewind. All right, child, let's see what you sense that. Yes, Naruto said, turning to face the village where they were staying. Feels like someone's getting ready to attack. When they arrived, they discovered that the entire village was encircled by mist. Ninja Naruto exclaimed, "Shit, my family and Hiku's in there. We must assist them." "What do you have in mind?" asked Zabuza. The majority of the mist appears to be present. "You see any women in the group, Zabuza?" asked Naruto, glancing at the field. After giving him a look, Zabuza said, "No, why?" After learning that Zabuza was going to do something, Naruto got a fox grin and said, "I got an idea, but Gambunta's going to kill my grandfather later." He then hanged into Jiraiya and swiftly called forth Gambunta. "What do you want, pervert?" Gambunta asked using a Jiraiya voice. Jiraiya stated, "I need you to perform a combination transformation, Kanbi Henge, to save the village." Gambunta's Jiraiya changed as he nodded. Finish the flashback. As he transformed the frog into a 200-foot naked blonde female with pigtails and barely covered by 2 whiffs of smoke, Zabuza interrupted and said, he had music start playing all over the area singing "I'm too sexy." Blood loss had knocked out the entire army. That's how he earned the nickname, Sexy Blonde. As everyone stared at him, Naruto grinned and uttered, "What can I say? If you got it, use it." Zabuza replied, "So you obviously did not call me here for a social call. What do you want?" Naruto took a breath and said, "I will triple what Gado's paying you to act hurt until the bridge is almost complete, and keep an eye out on the little pest. Should something change, Haku knows how to get to me. When you decide to attack, put frost on the windows of the house. We draw Gado out, you help us kill him and his men. You get paid. Wave gets bridge. Everyone's happy but Gado. Then you and your men can decide on joining Konoha since your term is almost up, or you can continue being a missing nin and we still pay you for your service." As he walked away, Zabuza nodded and said, "Fine, see you soon, kid." "He's pulling our leg right," Sakura remarked. "I will let you wonder about that. Let's go," Naruto grinned. The last 3 men in front of Naruto were all poised to attack, and he was furious. How the hell did I get myself into this shit? Oh yeah, the little dipshit over there, he asked himself, glancing at the Gado behind his 200 merc. Rewind. Everyone was observing Tazana after Team 7 arrived at his house, and Sasuke was acting his typical brooding demeanor. Kakashi chose to start tree climbing early because he didn't have to fight. Naruto received guard duty for the week because he was already aware of it. The week flew by, and unfortunately, the jerk from Uchiha had used his Sharingan, making him believe he was a god. He only activated it because, after climbing the tree for the first time, he became enraged and blew himself off the tree toward the Sakura, who was on the ground admiring her crush. He then used a kunai to trim her fingernails so she would look nice for him. She appeared to be attacking him when she looked up and stuck her kunai upwards in response to the explosion. Unfortunately, Sasuke was able to dodge because of the pink-haired bimbo, who scared him and activated it when he saw it. When Zabuza and Haku arrived, the bridge was nearly finished and looked terrible. "What happened and where are the brothers?" inquired Naruto. Zabuza, who was receiving medical care from Haku, said, "That damn prick Gado heard when they came and told me and Haku you were coming. He double-crossed us and sent for ninja from the mist and told them I was here also with you. They attacked us and there was 20 of them, but we got some of them, but the rest will be coming for you probably at the bridge." With a sigh, Kakashi asked, "Will you help us?" Zabuza replied, "Yes. The kid here has helped us many times and I would like to see Gado pay for this." Sakura inquired, "Why are you helping them?" Naruto, "They're missing nin." Zabuza stated, "I am only a missing nin. After the Mizukage began to fear the 7 swordsmen, the people started to respect us more than him, so he attacked us with his personal guards. I don't know if any of the others survived, but after that we went on the run and he said we attacked him. That's why I am a missing nin. I plan to return and clear our name and remove the Mizukage, but sadly looks like it won't happen." Naruto replied, "Sakura, what was the first lesson Kakashi tried to teach us? Look underneath the underneath. Not everything is as it appears." He then went on to describe how he had heard Zabuza and the Demon Brothers discussing the attractive blonde and how he had learned of the reward for him. The rest is history because he sent a message to Mist, being the avaricious little shit that he is. 12 Junins from the Mist joined Gado this morning out of the 20 that arrived. Haku and Zabuza had remained in order to help kill the little shithead and exact revenge on the Demon Brothers who had been killed by the Mist. Behind them on the bridge, Kakashi had Sakura and Sasuke keeping watch over Tazuna and his family when he saw everything he had brought them because he didn't want to risk an ambush at their house together. Zabuza and Haku took 5, Kakashi took 4, And Naruto took the final 3. Did I forget to mention the mercs who were watching and wishing to join the battle as well? The end of the flashback. A red-haired Miss Junin said, "Oh, you want to see how well you can fight all 3? As Naruto calmed down and began to make one-handed gestures behind his back, his words were interrupted when his head was abruptly flung across the floor when he saw a Naruto clone standing behind him with a sword clicking as it was receded. His 2 friends leapt away from him. As the 2 Junins covered the entire area surrounding the bridge with their hidden mist jutsu, Naruto grinned. As they both screamed from within the fog, 8 points, liver, lungs, spine, jugular vein, carotid artery, brain, kidneys, and heart. Which one should I go for? Naruto and Zabuza both thought they were idiots. Then, all of a sudden, there was a clamor of metal against metal, and no one knew who was doing what. Sakura wanted to pass out. Sasuke wanted to know what was going on, but he could only see the hidden mist jutsu because of the mist and his Sharingan. As he avoids a kunai, Kakashi perspires and asks, "Zabuza, did you really teach him silent killing?" Through the fog. His voice came from everywhere as Zabuza grunted after his attack and said, "Yeah, I taught the little shit too well. He's the only person who can beat me, and it feels like he is evening the numbers though." When they heard this and had a single thought running through their minds, the mist Junins halted and retreated woe and let the mist they had up fall. They had not anticipated seeing the sight that greeted them. Sakura puked when she saw it, and Sasuke got even angrier. Tazuna passed out. Inari was startled by Tsunami's green appearance. Zabuza stood with 2 headless bodies on the ground next to him, his sword in the chest of one of the ninja he was battling as Haku emerged. 2 men were on the ground at her feet, and a dome of ice mirrors was gradually descending. As the final 2 stood back to back, ready to attack, Kakashi had stabbed one of his enemies in the neck with a kunai and was fending off another. When Gato realized the voice was coming from behind him and that all of his merc were dead, his eyes widened, and Naruto, who was standing behind him, said, "Aw man, you just ruined my fun." Naruto and Zabuza each called out a different point. Gato began to cry out and flee, but Naruto grabbed him and said, "Kakashi, here's a blast from the past for you." In less than a second, he formed a Rasengan in his hand and slammed it into Gato's back, sending him hurtling toward the mist Junins before he perished. Kakashi's eyes widened to the size of a silver dollar. He knew Jiraiya would eventually teach Naruto how to use it, but he wasn't sure if he could use it yet. Kakashi fainted when Naruto displayed it in the Hokage office. Naruto turned to face the 5 surviving mist Junin. In addition to Naruto, Haku and Zabuza had already killed their 5, although they didn't look as bad as Kakashi. The 3 people he had been fighting with looked worn out and bruised. "So, do you still want to fight, or do you want to run back to the Mizukage and tell him of your failure?" Naruto asked, glancing at them. A black-haired opponent of Naruto lunged at him, but was knocked unconscious by a senbon that landed in his neck. "Why can't I copy that jutsu? I demand you tell me how to do it and why I could not copy it," yelled Sasuke at the end. When he was ignored, Kakashi turned to face the final 4 and remarked, "It looks like we are in a stalemate. Your choice." The Naruto behind his final adversary became a pool of water, and Naruto began to move in the direction of the other members of the group. "We have orders not to return with both Zabuza head and the blonde." He made the hidden mist a laughing stock of the great nations, the mist Junin said, forming a triangle with his back to the other. Naruto, who laughed at this, turned cold, narrowing his eyes, and said, "All I did was stop your village from making slaves of a village full of innocent people. I did not even harm one of your ninja but showed everyone they're perverts. You should call yourself lucky I did not do what I did to Iwa then. You know me as sexy blonde, which flatters me. Iwa knows me as the second flash of death. I killed 40 of their ninja in 2 minutes, a little over a month after what I did to you for trying to get revenge for what my father did to them. They tried poisoning my family while we were as rain country. I am immune to all poisons, but I detected it along with the rest of my family. When they came to get rid of our bodies, they learned one lesson: quick, leave the Kazama family alone. I am the second person in history to ever get a flea on sight order, and I am only 13 years old. My father was the first. Tell you Cage to learn from this, or next time I won't hold my friend here back from killing you all. As the hire to the Kazama family, I give Zabuza and Haku the protection of the Kazama clan. Now get out of my sight." As his eyes turned red, everyone was startled when a voice in the center of the group said, "Before I get pissed." This was because there was another water clone in the center of the 3 ninja. In fact, the 3 Junin were so terrified that they leapt from the bridge and began running away from it on the water below. "Was that true what you said about Iwa?" Kakashi asked Naruto after he let out a sigh and released the water clone. Naruto replied, Yes, we were on the border of rain and wind. I was getting ready to see my fiancé in wind, and somehow they got word about me and my family being together. They decided to take us all out in one strike. They tried to poison our food, but with 3 of the best medics in the world, me who was immune like I said, and Ero-san, and we all detected it. Sasuke approached Naruto and attempted to strike him. Subsequently, Naruto ducked, grabbed Sasuke's arm, pulled it behind his back, and tripped him, causing his face to slam into the bridge. "Teme, why did you try to attack me?" asked Naruto. Sasuke was even more enraged, but Naruto's sitting on his back prevented him from making hand signs, so he was unable to get up to fight. Sasuke replied, "Answer my question, why could I not copy the jutsu you used? I needed to." Naruto struck a pressure point on Teme's neck to knock him out, saying, "Kill Itachi, I know all about your brother and what he did. You're giving me a headache now, sleep tight, Teme." Sakura yelled at Naruto for injuring Sasuke as he got to his feet, and Haku became enraged and struck her with a senbon needle as well. Sighing, Naruto said, "Thank you, Haku." "Do you mean what you said about us having your protection?" Zabuza and Kakashi asked as they approached. Gazing at Gato's body, Naruto laughed and remarked, "Yeah, I was going to wait until you came to Konoha to tell you though, but the little dipshit pissed me off." "Kakashi, you don't happen to have an up-to-date bingo book, do you?" Naruto asked, glancing around. With wide eyes, Kakashi took it out and uttered, "As a matter of fact, I do." Using it, Naruto produced 25 cage bun shins and sent them out through the murk and the mist ninja. Looking at Haku, Kakashi pervertedly asked, "What do you think your fiancés will do about having a new girl in your life?" Naruto replied, "Really, I don't even think about it. I admit Haku is beautiful, but she's..." Haku replied, "I am bi." Naruto is supportive of that, but he already has made a deal with his 3 fiancés and I doubt he would want another. Actually, Naruto was thinking, "I would make you a 4th because I like you, but I don't want you and Enko to work together against me once more." Kurenai and Temari disliked competition as well. After cleaning up the body mess and looking for any bounties for 10 minutes or so, a clone arrived and said, "We got about 15 C-class total, the rest don't have any we know of. I need a sealing scroll." After taking one out, Naruto gave it to the clone, who then gave it to the others. After the bridge was completed the following day, the 6-person group left for Konoha. Sasuke and his harpy were carried by 4 clones, but they were knocked out again, so it was more like a group of 10. "How exactly did you take all of them out so quick back there? I know you're good, but not that good," Zabuza asks Naruto as he approaches him. Naruto stated, "Cage bunshins, I created 10 of them when the idiots cover the bridge and had my mist clone fight the 2 mist nins I had left. Since they could not see in the fog, the mercs went down quick. You're not the only one of the 7 left." Zabuza. Kakashi, who was walking slightly behind them, listened to the conversation while narrowing his eyes. Naruto stated, "Kisame is also still alive and will be coming to Konoha soon. Him and his partner Itachi have orders to kidnap me to take the Kyuubi." "But didn't you already absorb the Kyuubi?" Zabuza asked. Naruto replied, "Yes, but we are keeping it a secret so we can spring a trap for the guys who want to destroy all the hidden villages with the power of the demons. Kisame is one of that group." When Kakashi heard that, his eyes widened, and he questioned how Naruto knew. "I know you heard, Kakashi, so join our conversation. The only 2 I don't want hearing are knocked out right now," Naruto said. "Why don't you want them to know, Naruto?" asked Kakashi. "Sakura will do anything for Sasuke." The tree climbing exercise showed that more than anything after she finished, she watched him the entire time, never even trying to do any training after that. Naruto sighed, walked over, quickly drew his sword, and cut a tree off to create a stump. He then sat down, looked at everyone, and said, "Answer me, Kakashi, what is Sasuke besides a Uchiha?" Kakashi said, "I don't," as he turned to face Naruto. "An Avenger, he will betray anyone to get the power to kill his brother, even the Leaf Village." Naruto interrupted him, closing his eyes, and asked, "Do you know how to get the final level of the Sharingan like Itachi, Kakashi?" As Kakashi squinted, Naruto remarked, "You must feel sorrow for killing your best friend. That is what Sasuke will do to kill his brother." "But Sasuke won't do that," Kakashi remarked, opening his eyes. Naruto said, "And that's why you won't remember." Kakashi fainted upon seeing his eyes. He no longer had blue eyes despite being red. They featured a variety of diamonds, lines, and commas, and his vanity stood out on the side. With a sigh, Naruto closes his eyes and returns them to their usual state after a few hand seals. He tapped Kakashi on the head and said, "Memory implant jutsu." Zabuza replied, "What did you do that for, Naruto, and what was that thing with your eyes?" Naruto explained, "I did that so Kakashi won't remember what I said on the bridge or on the way here. Konohas does not need to know about me being as strong as I am right now because we have spies in the village because we are going to be attacked during the Chunin exams soon." He also has blind faith in the Uchiha because of his dead teammate that gave him that eye. I learned that jutsu from a Yamanko before and implanted a fake memory that I put in both the Harpy and the Teme over there already. As for the eye, it's a bloodline I created. You know how I told you about how I have Kyuubi. Since I have absorbed him all, I know how to create my own bloodline with it and gave myself a way to fight the Sharingan as well as a few other tricks. I call it the Trinigan. Let's go, and built a couple of cage bunshin. Additionally, after that, they carried on with their journey. A group from ABNU appeared at the gates of Konoha and was about to begin an action when Naruto uttered the words, "You will not harm anyone under the protection of the Kazama clan." Explain why, since you are the only person not out right now, a sheepskin-clad ABNU asked. Naruto stated, Kakashi used his Sharingan to long training the Uchiha. Sakura thought the Uchiha died and passed out. Sasuke tried a jutsu Kakashi showed him and has chakra exhaustion, and these two are under my protection and we would like to see the Hokage. Settle down, I have already talked to Naruto and they are free to enter, the Hokage said as he and Naruto emerged from a whirlpool of flames and leaves. A cloud of smoke rose as Naruto spoke to the ABNU. Haku and Zabuza both laughed at the responses. The ABNU had the Hokage led them to the tower after saying, "Follow me." Following their self-explanations and with Naruto and Jiraiya's assistance, Zabuza and Haku were admitted to Konoha. Haku is a Chunin and Zabuza is a special Junin. She would begin working at the hospital. Both of them consented to a 90-day probationary period during which they would only receive half of their salaries and be subject to a curfew with restricted access to the village. They were assigned to the village, and Team 7 was admitted to the hospital, with the exception of Naruto, who showed up in his room and fainted a few minutes later. Naruto planned to search for his fiancée, but Anko was with an ABNU investigating a rumored rise in missing nins close to the Suna border, and Team 8 was en route to a village north of Konoha. Since the Chunin exams begin in 10 days, the Naruto team was granted the remainder of the week off. On the west side of town, Zabuza and Haku were each given a 2-bedroom apartment because of their shared passion for Kenjutsu. Hiati and Zabuza quickly became friends. Haku was following Shizune's schedule and continuing to apprentice herself to learn things that Tsunade had not taught her. In order to deliver the next volume of his book to his publishing company, Jiraiya had to leave town. His official justification is that the true reason is that before Tsunade realized what he had said, he ran away after proposing to her. Shizune has been spotted with a specific Chunin Academy instructor when she is not training Haku and working at the hospital. After understanding what he had said, Tsunade attempted to track down the pervert, but he had vanished. The third attempted to appoint her as his successor, but she consistently refused. At her sister's house, Rin has been spending time. Naruto was enjoying his day. 5 days had passed since he and his group returned every day this week. He has been pulling practical jokes on his team. He got up and went to visit his teammates at the hospital. When he took them to the hospital, he laughed at the response he received. Rewind day 1. Sakura, Sasuke, and Kakashi were all unconscious when Naruto entered the hospital. Upon approaching, a nurse inquired, "What did you do to them, boy?" I think it was funny when Sasuke asked Sakura to get something to help her get pregnant faster. If you could, you might want to go ahead and give it to her. Naruto grinned and said. Kakashi-sensei passed out from showing Sasuke how to use his Sharingan. Sakura passed out when Sasuke asked her to help him restore his clan, and Sasuke passed out when he was practicing a jutsu Kakashi showed him. He then dropped all three on the hospital floor and walked away smirking. Finish the flashback. Day 2 of the flashback. When he entered the hospital the following day, he ran into a doctor he had detested since he was a young boy. He approached the nurse's desk, said, "Follow me," and then headed for his teammate's room, the nurse directly behind him. Sakura was awake when he entered, but Kakashi was still unconscious. Sasuke had fallen asleep despite waking up earlier. He was unwilling to deal with Sakura. The physician came up and said, "Sakura, your teammate when he dropped you off yesterday said something, and I was wondering if you could confirm it. Did Sasuke ask you to help him restore his clan?" Sakura blinked in an attempt to clear her mind of the fog, recalling a memory of that, but unsure if it was real. She replied, "Yeah, I remember that, but I thought it was a dream." With a nod, the doctor proceeded to her chart, wrote, and then said, "Please give this to her." The doctor then showed the nurse the orders in past lives. Tsunade and Shizune taught him medical jargon. "Are you sure, sir? I mean, want that?" the nurse asked, looking at it with a pale face. "That's the whole point. While you're at it, give this to the Uchiha as well. Don't want to upset him, do we?" The doctor interrupted her, writing in Sasuke's chart and pointing to the nurse. A civilian council member entered, and Naruto had to conceal a smirk as the nurse went pale once more and opened his mouth to speak. The nurse interrupted the council member as she was about to speak, saying, "Thank goodness, maybe you can talk some sense into the doctor here." "What are you getting at, woman?" the council member asked after glancing at her. The nurse went on to say, the Uchiha asked his teammate to help him restore his clan while on the last mission, and the doctor here is wanting to give them fertilization drugs. Well, you heard him. Get it. I will inform the rest of the council. The council member said, his face sporting a lottery-winning expression, and he hurried out of the room. After glancing at the nurse, Naruto left the room and closed the door behind him, walking down the hall into an empty room and asking, is that any way to act toward your superiors? He left the hospital by the window, dropping the henge. Finish the flashback. Day 3 flashback. This time, Naruto approached the nurse's desk and hacked into another doctor he detested since the nurse from the day before had called in sick today. He said, I need to check on the Uchiha and I need one of you to come with me. I will help you, doctor, said an elderly woman who couldn't see well, and she followed him into the room after grabbing a bottle of medicine from the supply cabinet. Naruto entered the room and inquired, how are you both feeling today? Kakashi had his Icha book covering his face while he slept, still dazed from the painkillers. Sakura remarked, a little lightheaded. Nurse, please make sure she gets these medicines added to her to help with the lightheadedness and to get ready faster. The doctor handed her chart, looked at it through her glasses, said, right away, sir, and walked over to her. He performed a basic scan on her, checked her IV, smirked, and wrote some additional information in her chart. After she left, he proceeded to the medical cabin in the room, got a needle, mixed up some of the medication he had previously grabbed, and went to inject it into Sasuke's intravenous line. Sakura asked him, what is that for? It helps him with the pain. The doctor said he had muscle spasms last night, according to the note left by his previous doctor. I don't care what they give him now, he said as he left the hospital, believing that the shot was sufficient to render him sterile. Final flashback. Day 4 flashback. As usual, Naruto entered the hospital room, but his hands were covered and he was wearing a long white robe similar to his father's. Perks of knowing the publisher. He handed Kakashi the most recent edition of Icha and said, so bastard, what they feeding you? He then went to Sasuke and dropped the fork from the table next to his bed. Naruto said, what? No answer, and waited for a few minutes while bending down to pick up the fork and slapping a tag beneath Sasuke's bed. While he was standing up, Sasuke simply hung his head and peered out the window. With a sigh, Naruto approached Sakura and inquired, how are you feeling? Sakura uttered the words, leave now, as she began to appear agitated. With a sigh, Naruto said, so much for teamwork, and left the room, grinning as he passed the nurse's station and saw his teammates' emergency buttons go off. Sasuke was experiencing muscle convulsions when the nurses rushed down to investigate, and he heard a doctor say, restrain him so he can't hurt himself. Final flashback. Today comes next. Sasuke was chained to the bed rails with hospital restraints, and it appeared that the drugs he prescribed for Sakura had finally taken effect because she was giving the boy one hell of a rodeo. Even though she had the decency to cover herself with a sheet, Kakashi was unconscious from a blood loss. His mask was red now, and his book was on the floor when Naruto entered the room where his teammates were. When a nurse entered, Naruto recognized her as the one the council member had spoken to, so he asked, what did you give her? The doctors order an IV of hormone modifiers to help someone get pregnant faster, the nurse said. Startled by the scene, it seems that the Uchiha were also given the male enhancement drugs. They have been engaged in this activity for some time. With a blink, Naruto innocently inquired, what do you mean? The girl started around 2 in the morning, according to the nurse on the last shift. The nurse stated only a few moments after waking up, the Uchiha passed out, and she has been intermittently ill ever since. Actually, I don't believe she's gone to bed yet. In order to prevent her death, we had to start administering nutrient solutions via intravenous means. Then why don't you stop the hormone IV or get her off of him? Naruto asked, glancing at her. We were given strict orders by the council. The nurse said they want to begin the clan restoration after hearing that Uchiha chose his first girl. Actually, I shouldn't tell you all of this, but the council has already started to spread the word. Sakura's mother is overjoyed. Naruto replied, then why don't you give them privacy and remove Kakashi-sensei? The healthcare provider stated, he was ordered to stay for their protection until they stop. As Shizune asked, why do I think you had something to do with what's happening in your teammates' room? Naruto snorted and said, thanks, I will give them some privacy. He then turned and left the room, stopping at the front desk. Don't know what you talking about, Nichan, but you know the saying, make love not war, Naruto said with a foxy smile before he fled the hospital to avoid the clipboard that had smashed into the wall where he was. He was feeling upbeat when he suddenly felt a lot of ki, and he knew that only he could produce that much. He flamed Shushin to get to the spot, and sure enough, Gaara was standing there, staring at the sound Genins, and Gaara said, say that Aegean. Duso stated, you heard us, kill the Kazama kid or we will kill your sister. Look here, Genins, Naruto said as he leapt to the ground and hanged into an ABNU. You are not permitted to fight until your matches, or we will have to have you leave because you were here for the Chunin exams. Kin replied, fine, we were just leaving, it's nice to see you Eiji and Temari. As Gaara was about to kill them, he noticed a Rasengan barely concealed beneath the ABNU's cloaked hand. Knowing that only 3 people were capable of that jutsu, he watched them go, and after they had left, Naruto dropped his henge and asked, are you alright? While glancing at the 3. Yes, Temari said with a sigh. They stopped us as we were heading to our hotel room after we had just arrived. As 2 more of him showed up and grabbed Gaara and Konkuro's shoulders, they both flammed Shushin away. Naruto then picked Temari up bridal style and left in one, saying, forget the hotel room, you are all staying at my place. When they arrived at his house, Naruto sighed and remarked, I wish I could kill that bastard right now. Tsunade was reading a scroll when they arrived, and she looked up and grinned before returning to her work. What's wrong? Tsunade asked, pausing her reading. Temari went on to say, we were heading toward our hotel room when 3 sound nins confronted us and said we either kill Naruto-kun or they will kill me. With her fist clenched, Tsunade turned to face Naruto and asked, are you ready? With a snort, Naruto replied, yes, they won't be aware of what happened to them, and I've already distracted my teammates. According to Tsunade, so that was you that did that. Yeah, and the best part is the bastard can't get her pregnant, Naruto said with a foxy grin. Kankuro asked the 3 sand genins, after they had exchanged glances, what are you both talking about? In order to make Sakura, my pink-haired teammate, so horny that she needs to have sex to get it out of her system, Naruto said. I hanged into various doctors that I detested from my childhood and had them fill out hormone drugs. She is currently raping my other teammate who is her crush. In addition to giving him the same medications, I also gave him something that would render him permanently sterile. I gave them both a memory implant on the way back from our last mission, and my senses all assumed it was real when they heard Sasuke ask Sakura to rejoin his clan. Sakura and Sasuke will be gone for a week. Once they have dealt with it, you can guess when that will be. With an evil smile, Gaara said, during the Chunin exams. When Tsunade performed some hand seals, her appearance changed to that of Sakura, and she uttered the words, you so mean Naruto baka. He looked like Sasuke, so Jiraiya, who was at the stairs, also sighed and said, she's right Dobi. Those might appear to be typical henges, but they will only fall if their chakra runs out, Naruto said with a smile. Even though grandma looks good without it, I changed the henge she wears to make her appear younger. I also have a section of the forest with seals where, once I activate it, a barrier appears that prevents you from shushining, digging, or jumping over it in order to trap Orochimaru himself. I set it up. So where's the party? Gaara inquired. 1 mile in, right in the center of our gates, Naruto remarked. If you want to have some fun, just slink over to where I am and hide. No summons larger than a small summon will be accepted because I have markers placed throughout the battlefield. There is no room, so there are no bosses. He will hurt himself if he tries to call forth Manda, who will likely kill Orochimaru if he manages to get away. Gaara, I just ask that you keep an eye on everyone. Whatever he throws at us, you and I can bounce back, but the others can't. Just save me some fun. Gaara nodded. Of course, just don't forget to take out Kabuto afterwards, Naruto said, nodding. With his puppet resting on the ground, Kankuro declared, Crow is ready for him. As Temari began to polish her fan and release an evil chakra, a dark aura surrounded her, causing everyone to perspire and take a step back. Gaara then remarked, Shukaku's scarred right now. When the day of the exams finally arrived, the next few days flew by. Kakashi, Sasuke, and Sakura were in a safe house in the Hokage Mountain, under the watchful eye of 25 of the most trusted ABNU. Sakura was in a medically induced coma, and of course, she would not be walking normally for a few days anyhow. Shizune perspired as she performed a medical jutsu on her and Sasuke. Why are we doing this, Aegean? Kakashi asked. Shizune stated, Orochimaru has infiltrated the exams, but we don't know who he is disquised as, so Tsunade and Jiraiya are also disquised, and you are here to protect your other 2 students in case he finds out. Kakashi reads his book and sighs. Note, unless I specify otherwise, Sakura is Tsunade and Sasuke is Jiraiya. As Team 7 entered the academy across the village and reached the 2nd floor, Sasuke glanced at everyone, recalled the plan, and said, drop the genjutsu, we are only on the 2nd floor, before navigating the throng. A genin attempted to punch Murmurs, but Sasuke simply retreated as Rock Lee deflected the blow. After a short while, Rock Lee declared, I challenge you to a fight, Sasuke Uchiha. No, Sasuke turned and continued walking, and as they entered the room, they heard, Sasuke-kun, screamed loudly. Sakura became enraged when Ino grabbed onto Sasuke, who grabbed her boobs and ass just as she was on him. Sasuke then said, "Remember Sakura, I have to have more than one winch since I already slept with you." He grinned evilly and pervertedly, making Tsunade realize he was helping the girl move past her crush on the bastard. Ino punches Sasuke and runs to her team in tears, right into Choji's arms as he consoles her, while Naruto perspires. As the 8th team approaches, Kiba remarked, "So cuz, we finally going to do this thing?" Naruto replied, "Yeep, but let's wait until we have a crowd in the finals or semifinals to show our skills so that way we are at our best." "Deal," Kiba said. Shino said, "Naruto, who are your," while glancing at Sakura and Sasuke. "My teammates for the exams. You know how many enemies we have here, so we don't want to release any important info," Naruto said, staring directly into Shino's eyes. As a silver-haired man wearing glasses approached and said, "You're right, Kazama-kun," Shino nodded. "That is some wise counsel. Let me introduce myself. I'm Kabuto, and I'd like to assist everyone with the test." "Troublesome? What do you mean?" Shikamaru asked. Kabuto replied, "I have info on everyone here, and if you want I could tell you so that you can have an easier time." Pointing to Naruto, Neji approached and asked, "What do you have on him?" Kabuto said, "Well, let's see," as he shuffled his cards. "Holy shit, this cannot be correct." As everyone stared at him, Lee uttered the words, "What?" Naruto Uzumaki Kazama, also known as Sexy Blonde, the second flash of death, or the Music Man, Kabuto stated he. He was interrupted by Naruto, who said, "I know Iwa gave me the second flash of death and Mist gave me Sexy Blonde, but who gave me Music Man?" "Actually that comes from the village in Rain Country you saved," Kabuto said, glancing at his card. "Additionally, you recently adopted the new moniker Butcher of Wave." "What's with all the name cuz?" Kiba inquired. Kabuto stated, "The name he got from Mist is when he defeated 1200 Mist Nin with one jutsu. He got the second flash of death from Iwa when he killed 25. Interrupting, Naruto said, 40. Kabuto gave him a look and said, 40 of their ninja used his father's signature move, which also got him listed in the bingo book with something that only his father had. A flea on sight order. He obtained the Butcher of Wave from Mist after he killed 200 Merc and 10 Junins, and he also obtained the Music Man because of the music he used to defeat the 1200 Mist Nins. I only killed 1 Junin, along with the 200 Mercs and their boss Gato. We let 3 Junins go. The others were taken by Zabuza, Haku, and Kakashi." Naruto stated, "Do you have anything else on me?" Ino questioned, "Did you really kill all those people, Naruto?" As everyone stared at him as if he were insane. Everyone turned to the sound of broken glass as 6 figures leapt out of the window running, and Naruto said, "Well, you can ask the Iwa and Mist Nins that are running out the windows if it is true." Everyone started to perspire, and then Ibiki showed up and asked, "What did you do this time, Kazama?" As he walked to the front of the class with his black cloak on and his sword by his side, Naruto pulled out his N-Pod and said, "This," he then hit play, and the sound of glass shattering and car tires screeching began, followed by Stone Cold's music. "Don't own the music or the person known as Stone Cold. They belong to someone else." As Ibiki started to perspire, he asked himself, "Why me?" A blonde girl with a fan on her back approached Naruto as he began to walk while the music was playing, and Kiba turned to face her and said, "Hey baby, how about you and me go to the dog pound?" After giving him a quick glance, the girl said, "Sorry, I'm taken." Kiba replied, "Show me who the loser is and I will make him beg for mercy." The girl was suddenly encircled by arms, and a head leaned on her shoulder, saying, "Say something about making me beg cuz." After glancing at Naruto, Kiba remarked, "You must be fucking me." "Nope, I told you my third fiancé was from another village." Naruto snorted. "I believe I had it planned since I was 5 years old." Kiba replied, "Why do you have to get all the good-looking women? First you got Kurenai Sensei. Then you got that crazy snake woman Anko or whatever you call her." A genin from grass narrowed his eyes and listened in when Kiba mentioned Snake Woman. Naruto replied, "Well, what can I say? I got lucky to have found 3 very beautiful and loving wives. I hate to interrupt this little party you are having, but find your damn seat so we can take the test," Ibiki said after clearing his throat. Ibiki stated, "At last, the test is easy. You get 10 points. You get caught cheating. You lose 2 points every time you cheat. You get the wrong answer. You get points taken away." And Naruto sighed and kissed Temari's neck before letting her go and taking his seat next to Hinata. "You and your team fail if you run out of points. There are 9 questions on the test you are taking after 45 minutes. The 10th question will be posed. Good luck, and get started." After taking the test numerous times, Naruto wrote the answer in 2 minutes. Raising several eyebrows, he then took out a scroll, bit his thumb, and smeared blood on it before releasing 4 bottles of sake. He began to make hand gestures and said, "Ice style. Ice party style," which caused the 4 bottles to get frost on them. One of the Chunin instructors, keeping an eye on the test, slapped her forehead and muttered, "Idiot," before slamming his hand on the table and saying, "Kachiyose no jutsu, summoning technique." An orange frog materialized on his desk. Naruto grabbed 2 bottles and threw them behind them in opposite directions without looking, only for Sasuke and Sakura to each grab them. Blinking, the frog said, "You bro, what's up?" Opened the sake, took out a deck of cards, and declared, $10,000 entry fee, you in or out Gamakachi. With his money on the table, Gamakachi said, "Deal fox," and reached into his pouch. Ibiki remarked, "You do realize there is an important test going on, right?" as everyone was perspiring. "Yeah, but I've already finished and located the pigeons you want in." Naruto replied, "I'll make you an offer when you have someone you can't crack. Let me join the investigation division after I defeat you in 5 games out of 7 at 5 card draw," throwing a book with a bookmark in it to Ibiki, who opened it and said, "Deal the cards. If I lose, you can keep the rest of my winnings, but if my friend here wins, I'll buy you that." A Chunin said, "Ibiki sir, don't forget the test," as everyone started to perspire. Showing the book to the Chunin, who fainted, Ibiki said, "The way the kid laid it out, I win no matter what, and I have wanted this for a while." A different Chunin inquired, "What is it, sir?" Ibiki said, "Remember that portable investigation office we read about in the last issue of the bingo book?" after glancing at the Chunin and recognizing him from his investigation unit. "That coat with all the investigative equipment is what he is offering me," Ibiki said after the Chunin nodded. "I'll let him join if he makes Chunin remember the identity of his other fiancé." As the entire room listened, Kiba said, "Who was it, Aegean sir?" The Chunin must not have heard him. After making a few hand gestures and releasing a few snakes from his sleeves that encircled the Chunin, Naruto uttered the words, "Do you know now?" "How do you have a snake contract, Naruto?" Ibiki asked, glancing at Naruto. Gamakachi stated, "Manda sucks at poker. Bro here had a contest 2 years ago and wound up getting about 20 summoning contracts out of it." Ibiki inquired, "Why would the summons play poker with you, kid?" "They can't beat me at drinking, and if they could beat me, I offered them 2 taels worth of my chakra to do anything they wanted." Naruto remarked, "When it comes to poker, I never lose. In addition to being a pussy, I defeated Mandas in fighting, poker, and drinking. I forced him to renounce his agreement with Orochimaru. The Hibite must now pay 3 times the usual sacrifices if he wishes to call forth Manda," he said with a smile. Naruto said, "Man, do you feel that?" As the Rain Nin, who had just narrowed his eyes, sent vast amounts of murderous intent at him, "It has a bug bite-like sensation." When the 45 minutes were up, Ibiki looked up from his cards and said, "All right, time for the last question." Naruto and Ibiki began playing cards, and as time passed, Naruto opened another bottle of sake for Ibiki to drink. The other teams began working on their tests, attempting to ignore the spectacle they were watching. "You must choose whether or not to accept it. You will never be Chunin if you take it and miss. Get up and go right away if you choose not to accept it." After laying 2 cards down, he drew 2 more, Naruto drew 3, Gamakachi drew 1, and a number of people stood up and began to depart. All of the genins who had previously fainted out from the key had left, leaving 16 teams. "So has anyone else popped up with those weak as curse seals of Orochimaru's?" Naruto asked, glancing at Ibiki. Ibiki replied, "No, I still can't believe you figured out how to get rid of them. If that's all the skill he has, then it's no wonder my dad was named Yondaime Hokage instead of him." Naruto snorted as he shuffled the cards in his hand. Ibiki ignored the people who were listening and asked, "So did you find out anything else about him yet?" Naruto remarked, "I heard that he went and was preparing to establish his own village somewhere after leaving Akatsuki. The village he names will serve as the basis for his attacks. I bet, for example, the village of Eminas, where people walk around with Vaseline or something similar, or the village of Shit, where people shit on the ground and pick it up and throw it at you." He smirks to himself as he feels 9 different ki. "I swear. The way my grandfather Jiraiya and grandmother Tsunade talk about him with Anko, I don't see how he is anything other than a wimp. I bet he even gets himself a personal medic who can put the Vaseline on for him since his hands are so rough from playing with himself," Naruto said with a menacing smile. "The Hokage told me about body switch jutsu, and I wonder if the bastard has mastered it. Spending so much time playing with any idiot who follows him must be wearing down his other bodies, so I'm willing to wager he needs a new one. Imagine this. After playing with the snakes, your hands are nice and greasy. Orochimaru-sama, have you figured out how to get the penis pump to work for you, or do you need me to put your experiments away for you?" Ibiki and the majority of the class burst out laughing because they could take it no more. In between giggles, Ibiki asked, What would you do if he ever heard you say that? Please, that wimp is too scared to fight me, Naruto grinned. He would probably be on his knees pleading for me to kill him if we ever got into a fight. He might like it, but I suppose I'll have to wait and see. I would bitch slap him, take his sword. I think it's called Ascator or something. And use Kakashi's 1000 years of death on him. He believes he can master all jutsu, so he won't approach me in any case. Hell, he would never be able to master them all. Even if he had Sasuke sharing on up there, I would even place a wager on him. I would teach him Rasengan if he could defeat me in a one-on-one battle. Well, let's get our hands done. As Naruto raised his hand and began counting down from 5 4 3 2 1, the window's glass broke and a black ball of cloth burst, and Anko exclaimed, "Okay Gaki, I am your next." "Hold on a minute, Sarahime," Naruto interrupted. "What are you going to do, Ibiki?" Ibiki said, "I'm all in." After Anko swore, Naruto pushed in his and said, "Call?" Gamakachi had about as much as Ibiki and pushed in his as well. Gamakachi had a straight, Ibiki had 4 of a kind, and Naruto had a royal flush. They all displayed their cards, and Naruto grinned and said, "Well, Ibiki, even though I won, here is that code I promised." "All right, Sarahime, you can leave now," he said, dodging a kunai that Anko threw at his seat. In a puff of smoke, Gamakachi picked up his bottle of sake and walked away. "Everyone to training area 44 now," Anko said, glaring at him with a murderous intent. "You fail and I'll kill you if you're not here in 10 minutes, and disappeared in a flurry of leaves. Ibiki was a child in a candy store, admiring his new coat, when Naruto sighed and said, "What's her problem?" before leaving in a whirlpool of flames, shocking many. Naruto grinned as he arrived at the Forest of Death's entrance, and Anko gave him a look before asking, "So when were you going to tell me about having the snake contract?" "I guess I forgot," Naruto remarked. "You never know when you might need one, but I also have the dog, cat, boar, hawk, eagle, toad, slug, spider, and scorpion, among a few others." Anko walked over and gave Naruto a kiss after giving him a crazy look and deciding that at least he was prepared for anything. Ino was berating Sakura for drinking underage and pointing out that it might be harmful for her if she was pregnant when a number of other people began to arrive. Naruto sighed and said, "Hey Ino, relax, it's not as if they were given drugs to speed up their pregnancy. That would be inhumane." "What are you doing defending them?" Ino asked, glancing at him. "I assumed you detested them." "The emo is unbearable, but Sakura has calmed down since getting laid," Naruto remarked. "She hasn't bitched back at you, if you notice." Sakura walked over and whispered, "Little girl tried to enter my mind, but I forced all the alcohol into it when she entered, making her sick." As Ino sighed and turned to face her teammates, then she was gone in a flash. "Unfortunately, the alcohol caused me to faint, but the key roused me." "Remember the plan," said Naruto with a smile. "It's almost time to pay for my deal with death," he thought, adding, "This is going to be fun." Both of them nodded, and Anko told them the rules and told them to prepare. Rin, meanwhile, was sitting on a blanket on the Yondaime's head across town atop the Hokage monument, looking at the note Naruto had given her. "Mom, I want to do something special for you today to show you how much I care. Go to the Hokage monument after 11 a.m., sit on Dad's head, pack a picnic lunch, and wait. It might take a few hours, but I can assure you that the wait will be worthwhile." Naruto Rin, who had just arrived and was sitting looking over the city, sighed and took a sip of the sake she had brought. The gates were opened with a signal, and Naruto grinned as Team 7 and the Sand Team charged in through gates 19 and 20, respectively. 10 minutes later, they reached the location where Naruto had set up, and Gaara and his siblings took refuge in a small tree cave that Naruto had created using his bloodline. He narrowed his eyes when he realized it was not the person he was expecting, but he recognized them, and then Naruto turned and Sasuke said, "Okay Dobi, so what's the plan?" He felt the people he had been waiting for enter the area. Naruto replied, "I think we should head to the tower and make an ambush there." "Instead of that, let's wait," Sakura said, interrupted by a massive wave of air that struck all 3 of them, but they managed to hold themselves to the ground with chakra just in time to see 9 figures leap into the clearing. A red bubble encircled everything within a quarter-mile radius as Naruto grinned, performed 3 hand seals, slammed his hand down, and uttered the words, "Sealing Art, Kitsune Force Field." "What's going on here?" asked Sakura as he advanced. The Rain Nin declared, "I have come for the Uchiha and also to kill your teammate little girl." "I don't swing that way," said Sasuke. "However, the 4 eyes over there most likely do." Kabuto replied, "Please let me humiliate him for you, Orochimaru-sama." Gaara was standing next to Naruto when a swirl of sand materialized, and he said, "Sorry, but your dance card is full with me." According to Sasuke, "So who wants Mr. Emo?" Sakura can work on the 3 sound genins, and you can deal with Kabuto's teammate. Naruto said Orochimaru will go with me. So tell me how you know it was me, the Rain Nin said, reaching up to remove his face as he heard laughter. Easy, said Naruto with a sly smile. I always know where my bitches are, just like any other good pimp. Today you die boy and your grandparents can't save you, Orochimaru said, squinting his eyes. Tsunade and Jiraiya replaced Sasuke and Sakura after 2 rounds of laughter. Jiraiya declared, we won't even have to enter the fight with you and him. He is more powerful than any of us. Let's start the celebration, he said, charging at Kabuto's 2 teammates. It looks like I will have to have some fun with your sister after all, Kabuto remarked, glancing at Gaara. Gaara asked, what do you know about me, Kabuto? With a smile. I know you are the son of the case cages and the vessel for Shukaku, but you don't seem to be able to control it because you don't really use his power, Kabuto said, drawing out a card. Why? Is he really that much of an idiot? Gaara asked, laughing as she glanced at Naruto. Yes, but remember that he has advanced healing like ours, so make sure you destroy his body completely, not just bones and muscles, Naruto said, keeping his gaze fixed on Orochimaru. With a narrowed gaze, Kabuto asked, and how do you know that boy? After saying, one demon knows another weasel, Naruto placed his hand on his sword's hilt and began to approach Orochimaru. After glancing at Naruto, Orochimaru declared, today you die. He then sent out some snakes to attack him, but as he kept moving forward, a wall of earth appeared in front of him, blocking the snakes, and the wall collapsed to the ground, preventing Naruto from stopping. Surprised, Orochimaru began to perform some hand seals and spit out multiple tiny fireballs at Naruto, but was stopped, like the snakes, but this time by a wall of water. After approaching Orochimaru for 10 feet or so, Naruto asked, so how do you like Kyuubi? What does that damn fox have to do with you using attacks without hand seals? Orochimaru asked, glancing at him. Naruto laughed and remarked, he bite me. You don't understand me. The fox that used to reside in my stomach before I absorbed him was not what I was talking about. I was mentioning my sword. What does that little toy have to do with anything? Orochimaru asked, glancing down at the sword Naruto was holding, still in its sheath. My sword is a specialty sword that I made and had the seals put on myself so no one would learn the secrets. Naruto grinned. Are you curious about its function? Fine, humor me, Orochimaru said, grinning and beginning to hand seal in the sleeves of his coat. Then there was a scream. Jiraiya was attacking both Kabuto teammates a few moments prior, and they both jumped away. One of them charged at Jiraiya and put his hand on his back, but Jiraiya's hair turned into spikes and stabbed the ninja hand. He jumped back and began to make hand signs, but he was suddenly enveloped in darkness as a voice behind him said, you blew it. As the puppet caught the nin, Jiraiya grinned. A second puppet with swords protruding from it then encased the first puppet, and the only sound that could be heard was a scream as the flesh was sliced to pieces. A female voice said, Kamaitachi no Jutsu, cutting whirlwind technique, and it struck the blown stones into smaller pieces and threw them at the 3 sound nins. Tsunade had punched the ground and picked up a huge slab of stone and chunked it at the 3 sound nins, only for one of the nins to stick up his hands and blow the stone to pieces. He smirked for a moment. A wall of sand rose up around Tsunade to block the stones that flew past where the other 2 sound nins had been a moment earlier. The same sound nin attempted to blast the stones again, but unfortunately, he had taken his eyes off Tsunade during the attack and was on the receiving end of a huge leg drop from the sky. It struck his head, snapping his neck and sending him face first in the ground dead. When Kabuto saw this, he charged at Gaara, saying, you should never take your eyes off of your opponent, and attempted to attack with his chakra scapels. Unfortunately, no one outside of Gaara's family knew about his ultimate defense because he had not been the target of any assassination attempts. The sand caught Kabuto's hand, and a sand clone of Gaara materialized, holding Kabuto in place. As he watched the remaining fights, Gaara sighed and remarked, you are an idiot. After observing what was happening, one of the 2 nins who had come with Orochimaru asked, should we fight them, Orochimaru-sama? While focusing on Naruto, Orochimaru said, no, those old has-beens and never will be are things my ninjas can handle. They don't deserve to live. If they can't, we'll find the real Uchiha once I'm done with this boy, so stay put. When Naruto began to laugh so hard that all fighting ceased, Orochimaru remarked, what's so funny, boy? After wiping an imaginary tear from his cheek, Naruto remarked, you truly are a ceiling fool, aren't you? Have you forgotten the little jutsu I performed when you first got here? Until I let it go. We are all stuck here until I drop it. No one can enter or exit, regardless of whether I'm dead or not. All of the plants in this forest, or what I like to call home, provide energy for the jutsu. As he hit the ground, Manda appeared and began to rise, only to crash into the barrier and crack his skull. Orochimaru, who was on top of Manda, was like a pancake and said, "Hurry and leave Manda." Orochimaru said, "We will see about that, boy. I'm having trouble breathing." In a puff of smoke, Manda hissed, "When you summon me Aegean Orochimaru, I will kill you," and departed. Naruto smirked as he charged, drew his sword while still covered in smoke, and slashed the left ninja across the neck, killing him silently before he turned to block a bone-made sword. The other nin then received 7 slashes across his back, and a tree root began to wrap around his body. Naruto then swiftly sheathed his sword. The next body he saw was Sasuke lying on the ground without a head, and the leader of his Sound 5, who was trapped in a tree root, with what seemed to be 8 Naruto standing around him. Orochimaru, who was panting, finally looked up and saw Naruto was gone. He then heard a cry of pain behind him and turned pale. "Any jutsu I try won't work because he can counter them without trying thanks to that sword somehow," Orochimaru thought as he stood up, his eyes narrowed. "For some reason, the ground around here is not acting normally, even though I could make a few mud clones when I attempted to go underground. Nothing happened. Is that barrier the reason?" "Okay, boy," he said, "let's see if I can get some answers. Although I am aware of your abilities, this has finally caught my attention." He put one hand up to his chin, the other on his belly, and ran the index finger along his cheek. "How are you doing this without hand seals?" he asked. Knowing what he was going to do, Naruto remarked, "It's really that easy. This sword is knowledgeable about every jutsu. I am aware of it has sentience, however, that does not mean it can do without hand seals. The answer is straightforward. The sword can read my mind, determine which jutsu I want to perform, and execute them for me as long as I touch it." This surprised Orochimaru, who remarked, "How can the sword do that? Doing the one hand seal by his belly would require chakra." Naruto said, "It does have chakra. Stepping back from the prisoner he currently held, I've added all of my extra chakra to it over the years. There are literally 9 tails of chakra in this sword. When people ask, I used to joke that it only had 1 tail's worth. Its true capabilities have never been witnessed by anyone, that is, until he realized this." He lunged towards Orochimaru, but was able to stop the grasshopper's blow before it could reach him. My, boy," exclaimed Orochimaru as he leapt back and snatched up his sword. "I am surprised by you. A grasshopper like that would have destroyed any ordinary blade." With a sly smile, Naruto pointed his blade at the ground and began channeling chakra around it, 1 ring of energy followed by another, and so on, until 9 rings of energy surrounded the sword's blade. Naruto then commanded, "Roar for me, Kyuubi," and charged Orochimaru. "Do you think I am afraid of blood or something?" Gaara asked Kabuto, stunned by what his opponent had just done. Kabuto was attempting to remove the sand from Gaara's hand while tending to the wound where he had stabbed himself. "No," Kabuto acknowledged, "I was trying to get free." With the incorrect word choice, Gaara said, "Fly free, little bird." His sand wrapped around Kabuto and threw him into the air, where he bounced off the barrier walls and fell back toward the ground. Had Tsunade not run underneath him, jumped up, and put a fist in his back, he would have had a soft landing. He was breathing heavily after bouncing off the barrier a second time when his arm control went haywire and he punched himself in the nuts. He moaned as he covered them with his other hand, but it grabbed him and gave him a painful squeeze. The sound of laughter accompanied his cries, and when he looked up, he saw the boy wearing makeup with what appeared to be chakra strings running into his arms. Realizing what was happening, he used all of his chakra to cut the string, which caused him to start panting and slowly get to his feet before receiving a very painful hemorrhoid check and hearing a female voice say, "Tamari, 10,000 years of death." Her fan went up his ass. He was flung in the direction of Tsunade, who pulled away and punched him in the direction of Jiraiya, who had a grin that would have made Ibiki proud. Jiraiya then powered a Rasengan and slammed it into Kabuto's back, sending him flying back toward Gaara. Jiraiya performed a Kaden Gokakyu no Jutsu, fire release, great fireball technique, and set Kabuto's body on fire. Gaara had his sand turn into a javelin that passed through Kabuto's skull, down his neck, and out his ass while being held in place. "How do you like your meat?" inquired Jiraiya. "Burnt or well done?" All of them said, "Burnt." Tamari asked, "What happened to the last 3? After noticing the man Naruto had imprisoned in tree roots and Orochimaru and Naruto facing one another and getting ready to attack, I was preoccupied with the summoned smoke after my attack, so I was unable to observe what transpired. I used the Doden Yomi Numa, Earth Release, Swamp of the Underworld, and sucked him of all his chakra and then let it consume him after your brother mutilated the one guy with his puppets." Jiraiya remarked. He glanced at Naruto and saw him moving his lips, but he was unable to hear what he was saying. "The other 2, I don't know. I used the Earth style Headhunter Jutsu and dug under them when your brother inked me in the sand to protect me," Tsunade, who was also watching, said. Since they were close to one another, I was able to pull them both down when I broke the ground. Unfortunately, as he went down, the man struck that metal device on his arm, causing the sound wave to blow away his eardrums and killing him and his teammate. Fortunately, the sound did not reach me because I was underground. As she watched the energy begin to surround Naruto's blade, she exclaimed, "What the hell?" She had seen Naruto use it a couple of times, but he was so fast and would not explain what was so special about it. He always used a regular katana that he purchased at a weapon store while he was training under Zabuza. A scream of "Roar for me, Kyuubi!" was heard, and Naruto vanished in a flash of yellow, shocking Jiraiya as well, who had never seen anything like the display before. Orochimaru blinked and spit out blood as his grass cutter fell to the ground in 3 pieces, and a moment later he fell on his knees, coughing up a lot of blood, and asked, "How?" Naruto charged in a yellow flash, only to appear behind him as he put his sword back into its sheath. Naruto said, "I have mastered over 1100 jutsu," as he turned and walked around Orochimaru, wiping some blood off his mouth before beginning to draw a seal on his forehead. "I am proficient in 30 sword styles." With a sadistic grin, he begins to perform hand signs and stops shouting, "Shiki Fujin," Corpse Demon Seal Exhaustion, before yelling, "Kachiyose," Edo Tensai, Summoning, Impure World Resurrection, and continuing to perform more hand seals as Jiraiya and Tsunade run over upon hearing the first sealing method, both of whom knew that it meant losing a son to it after 200 hand seals. Naruto's eyes glossed over, and he began to pant. The sky abruptly darkened, leaving Orochimaru scarred. He saw a figure emerge in midair and questioned, "What is that?" According to Naruto, "I am paying my deal with death." "So, child of the fire," the figure said this time, "have you made a decision?" Pointing to Orochimaru, Naruto remarked, "Yes, and as we agreed, here is your soul in exchange for the other." The figure said, "I have been patiently waiting for this soul for a while." As it glanced at Orochimaru, "I concur, 1 soul for 1 soul, 1 body for 1 body. Get to know this kid, it's impossible to start over again." "Please do me one last favor," Naruto said, nodding. "Tell the fox that I'm grateful." With his knife drawn, the figure approached Orochimaru, grabbed him, and proceeded to cut and eat each of his limbs before reaching into his stomach and removing a spirit and covering it with blood and flesh. Everyone was simultaneously shocked, curious, and in disbelief when the spirit fell face first to the ground and the figure said, "See you in time, kid." He then vanished as quickly as he had appeared. As he collapsed to his knees, Naruto began to cough and spit out blood, grinning and saying, "Thanks Shinigami, and you also, Kyuubi." After a few minutes of him sitting there, Tsunade approached him and inquired, "Are you alright?" "Like I told you," Naruto said with a smile, "I defy all odds. Maybe you ought to see how your son is doing right now." Jiraiya said in a stuttering voice, "Arashi." Tsunade blinked and turned back toward the body that was on the ground when it moaned and slowly stood up, but his ass was naked, and he turned, making everyone except Naruto gasp. "Is that you?" Arashi blinked a few times, glanced around, and exclaimed, "What the hell? The last thing I can recall is apologizing to my son and fighting some fucking fox." Naruto said, "Get your old ass dressed, Dad." After he turned and blinked after receiving a scroll upside down, "I'd rather not look at it." Naruto sighed and said, "Gaara." Arashi blinked and looked down, but when he realized he was naked, he turned red. He then grabbed the scroll, walked behind a tree, and began to change. "Give me a moment." Gaara approached and inquired, "What? Use your sand and pull my sword out of its sheath and lay it on my chest," Naruto said as he collapsed back onto the grass. "Face up, it will kill you if you touch it with your body." Gaara nodded and followed instructions. Naruto closed his eyes and for a few minutes, a green glow engulfed him and his sword. When he opened them, everyone was staring at him, and Arashi, who had been dressed, asked, "What's going on?" "I just restored some of my chakra," Naruto said as he got to his feet. "To do that jutsu to bring you back, I expended roughly 90% of my chakra." He pretended to sheath his sword as he approached the clearing where the headless body he had earlier killed was, but instead he quickly drove it into the ground, twisted the blade, and pulled it back out of the ground, where it was covered in blood. "Now, if you will excuse me, I have one more thing to take care of," he said. "What the hell was that, Naruken?" inquired Temari. With a sigh, Naruto remarked, "A spy. Can you do the honors, Gaara? I want to take a short break from using chakra." A man who looked like a Venus flytrap fell to the ground dead after Gaara nodded and moved the ground with his sand. Naruto reached down, took off a ring from his finger, and threw it into the air, slicing it to pieces with his sword before sheathing it. "Would someone please explain what the hell is going on and how I am alive, and is that my son?" Arashi asked, glancing around. After approaching, Naruto activated his eyes, touched Arashi's forehead, and uttered the words, Memory Implant Jutsu. A white light appeared after he performed a few hand seals and uttered the words, Kitsune Force Field Deactivate. After a few minutes of blinking, Arashi declared, I am going to kill them. Not right now, Naruto said, because you have a date in the village who has been waiting for you for a long time to use the Hiraishin Jutsu. There is a marker there. Naruto sighed and asked, did any of them have any scrolls? Arashi nodded and vanished in an instant. Naruto nodded, turned to face his grandparents, and said, go get the two idiots and bring them to the tower. Kenkoro returned, and it worked out that they had two sets. Gaara, I'm sorry to ask, but could you please get me? And he collapsed to the ground, face down. Chakra exhaustion, Tsunade said after running over to check him and letting out a sigh. Do you mind, Gaara? What's family for? Gaara smirked and seized Naruto and his family, who vanished in a whirlpool of sand. When Naruto and the sand sibs had gone in a whirl of sand, Jiraiya turned to face the man trapped in tree roots and asked, so what should we do him? Tsunade said, I don't care. With a few tears streaming down her cheeks, our son has returned alive. The man said, please let me go so I can kill you all. As Jiraiya grinned, Orochimaru-sama has passed away. My ass never felt safer than it does right now, smirking, Jiraiya said. Tsunade looked at him and said, the more chakra you use the tighter it gets. The man screamed in frustration and attempted to activate his curse seal, but the tightening roots around his body caused him to stop. He then pulled out a flare, shot it into the air, grabbed Tsunade, and they vanished in a whirl of leaves. After a few minutes, a BNU showed up, and they asked, what happened? After observing their surroundings. The fool was so loyal that he declared, Orochimaru-sama was killed, give me permission to kill them. Ibiki and Anko emerged as the ABNU sweat dropped, and Anko asked, where is Orochimaru? After looking around. The ABNU remarked, he said they killed him but I don't see a body, as the man screamed and began to cry. Just then, Jiraiya showed up, and Ibiki inquired, where is Orochimaru's body? The Hibite is currently in the death god's belly, Jiraiya said, beginning to laugh with death. The Gaki struck a bargain. Anko broke down in tears and asked, is Naruto dead? In a panic. Jiraiya gave him a death glare after he snorted, and he replied, nope, he traded for Arashi, Orochimaru. As everyone started to perspire, Ibiki asked, how? Jiraiya replied, I don't really know, but the Gaki used most of his chakra to do it though. Then it is probably impossible to do it again. Ibiki sighed, he alone possesses sufficient chakra. He's one of Orochimaru's Gakis, so watch him, Jiraiya said, nodding and glancing at the man who was still in the trees. When he attacks, he uses his own bones. Ibiki turned to face Anko and Jiraiya and nodded, saying, go find Yamato and have him free this ass and take him to my playroom. So how is the Gaki going to explain to everyone why his team is there? Anko sighed based on the surveillance videos. That Shino kid already knew you were fakes before the test. With a sigh, Jiraiya remarked, who knows, I need not worry because he has a plan. He departed in a flurry of leaves, saying, I have research to do. In order to wait for every team, Anko sighed and shushed to the tower. When Rin sensed a chakra pulse behind her while sipping her sake, she sighed, set her glass down without turning around, and asked, so who is this surprise my son set me up with? She froze when she heard the words, I don't know, Claus, I was just told to come here by him. Rin slowly turned to face the figure behind her, her eyes growing larger with every inch she went toward him. She was now on her hands and knees, completely over, and whispered, Arashiken. As two sets of claws grabbed onto his side and tore into his flesh, he hissed as they stopped rolling, and Arashi grinned and said, I know that position pretty well if I as he was tackled to the ground with a pair of sharpened canine teeth embedded in the side of his neck. After taking her mouth off Arashi's neck, Rin licked the blood from her hands before looking up into his eyes and stating, it is you, but how, my little claw? What have I told you about going for blood on the first strike? Arashi asked with a smile.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.